Well. Back at it again with another market live stream. Welcome on back, my friends. So, sorry, a little bit behind this morning. We had some delicious analysis in the Meet Kevin Alpha report. And we had some people really killing the swing trade this morning on the bounce. We may have picked a little bounce to do a little buy on, just saying. But anyway, so look, markets obviously are going to be nervous about Powell essentially rugging us. He basically rug pulled the December rate cut right from under us, right? This isn't a surprise, and it comes at a time where Powell is telling us everything's fine in the economy, but then you also have these underlying issues that are starting to get more and more broad, like what we're seeing with Chipotle. Now, you've probably seen a lot of people already talk about Chipotle on social media, but I find that looking at things myself, with y'all is always really fun. So I figure we may as well go take a peek at what's going on with the Chipotle earnings call and see what kind of damage is really in there. So let's get into the Chipotle earnings call and let's go look at what they say about the consumer. Now, I want to spend a minute addressing a few of the consumer headwinds that we have experienced. Okay. Earlier this year, consumer sentiment declined sharply earlier this year. We saw pullbacks in frequency across all cohorts. Since then, the gap has widened, with low to middle income reducing frequency. Well, I'll tell you, I think the only reason Chipotle is frankly going down and frequency is going down is because we're used to our memories of like 10 years ago getting a really nice burrito bowl or a really fat burrito to go, where we're like, dude, it doesn't even stay in. You take a bite at one end and like the back explodes because there's so much food in it. That was the reputation Chipotle had. Now all of a sudden it's like, yo man, I gotta order 2 of these sometimes, especially when you get them to go. You get them to go, you got to order like 2 of the burritos to be like what they used to be. Those, fat burritos where they're like, damn, Chipotle loves me. They load this crap up. Now, you go in for a burrito or you DoorDash, worse, a burrito. If you DoorDash the burrito, the $19 burrito with guacamole is going to end up being like $25 because of the tip and the delivery fee and all this stuff. And then you get it and it's like half the size of what you're used to. And you're like, bro, I'm getting scammed is what it feels like. Like, it's the worst feeling ever when you're hungry and you DoorDash and then you get the product and it's like, yo, this is not okay. It's the worst feeling ever. So anyway, it's not a surprise to me that low to middle income consumers are further reducing their frequency. Now, they saw this earlier this year when consumer sentiment declined sharply, they say, which is not a surprise because, we sort of had the tariff disaster. But now, what they say is, we believe that guests with an income of below $100,000 represents 40% of our sales. So 1 in 4 of their customers, they believe, have an income of under $100,000. Honestly, that's also kind of interesting. And this is their estimate. I mean, they don't really know. So they're, maybe there's a guy like in the back who's like, that guy's broke, judging us. But anyway, that means 60% of sales are to 6-figure plus people, essentially, based on our data. Dining out less often due to the economy and inflation. The particularly challenging cohort is 25 to 35. We believe this trend is not unique to Chipotle and occurring across all restaurants. Well, it makes you, and it skews younger. Well, it makes sense because, man, I mean, people who are graduating college right now are just absolutely getting effed. New grads today have a really tough time. Now, in fairness, millennials had a tough time too, who were graduating in 2008, 9, 10, 11, right? So like, unfortunately, cyclically, that can happen. You go through these periods of time where it's hard to get a good job. I was looking at somebody took a screenshot of like a Reddit post the other day, and they're like, there's this person who, they lost their job in bookkeeping. They now are a server and they're waiting tables. Their credit score is 500 and they're like, man, I just can't get ahead. Like, there's a little bit of balance here. We generally have to start with the financial education of like, stay away from buy now, pay later, stay away from debt, because oftentimes what happens is You could be waiting tables, but that doesn't mean you need to have a 500 credit score. So there's a broader problem there too. Like when I was a server, I had a 770 credit score. Actually, I was more just like busboy and host and expediter. And occasionally I was able to sneak in serving a table or two, but I never actually made it to server. Lauren did. And then she made it to manager. She's freaking awesome. And I got her the job there, but that was at Red Robin. But anyway, the point is, like, that's not an excuse for having a bad credit score, right? Credit's really important. But anyway, finally, the promotional environment has intensified. This is not uncommon either. So you're finding this with Starbucks as well. And this is what happens when the economy slows down. So pricing power shrinks, right? PP shrinks. This is one of the reasons why breadth in the stock market is so narrow that people are just plowing money into stocks like Nvidia, because the pricing power is absolutely insane at companies like Nvidia. Remember, they're taking 58 cents out of every dollar to the net income. That is absolutely insane. That's like a great gross margin, but their gross margin is even better. Their gross margin is sitting at, 72%. These are incredible margins. That's exactly what you're not seeing at Starbucks in their earnings release. Their earnings release yesterday actually indicated more of a deterioration in margins. And we'll look at it as well at Chipotle, but Chipotle's earnings call really points this out to us, that these are companies that appeal to everyday Americans, and they don't have the ability to offset inflation. This is what we're seeing consistently with companies saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to raise prices at the pace of inflation next year. That's what Chipotle was saying. Part of that is because they can't, because their margin's going to tank even more. Look at Starbucks' earnings here. This is a sign of what's going on with the K-shaped recovery. This is why we've got frustration supporting politicians like Imam Domni, right? But look at this. I've got quarter end net revenues of $6.9 billion at Starbucks. But look at their actual operating margin. Operating margin at just 4.5%. A collapse from the 18.7% operating margin that they previously had. Complete collapse. Now, part of that they blame on restructuring associated with the closure of stores, and they're trying to get, quote unquote, back to Starbucks. But that's still a massive decline in operating margin, and it's likely to continue to worsen even outside of their restructuring. So get into this promotional environment. That squeezes margin. It means you have
little PP.
Little PP. It is what it is.
Chew on this.
Chew on that. But anyway, despite these headwinds, Chipotle has maintained a stable wallet share, but that wallet share is shrinking. It's like, what is it? What's the joke with the onions? There's a joke about this. They're 2 times. It's something to the effect of like, they're 2 times my eyes water every single time. 1 is when I peel an onion. 2 is when I open my wallet. It's just the nature of the environment we're in right now. But we aim to get back to consistent share. Yeah, they're trying to climb back, but it's tough because it's not just a tough economy, but they've also got this now reputation of trying to skimp a little bit. And their version of skimping is really because they're also trying to fight inflation. So you get what's really called shrinkflation. The generosity gets cut out, right? What made their brand gets cut out. And so then they have to talk about reducing price, which you get this. All of this delivered at a price point that is 20 to 30% below our peers. They're talking about how, hey, we're going to try to do better on price. But the problem is, even 20 to 30% below our peers is still expensive. So of course you're going to get less frequency. This is what we saw with Fiserv. Fiserv responsible for 25,000 transactions a second. And they tank 40-something%. I think they're even down more today. So that is a sign of 2 things. 1, people getting nervous about high frequency kind of transaction data, right? Like you don't even get a dead cat bounce over here on Fiserv today because A, you don't have buyers lining up for the stock because people are basically out of money. And B, transactions per second I don't think anybody's standing on a hill going, oh yeah, they're about to skyrocket. It's important we deliver this exceptional experience consistently across 4,000 restaurants, blah, blah, blah. So let's look a little bit more to see what they say about the consumer, especially in the Q&A portion. And then we'll look at pricing. So consistently, peak periods. Okay, through our research, we found that over 90% of Gen Z would say they would visit a restaurant just for the new sauce. You know, I don't think they understand people. They're like, hey, Gen Z's gonna come visit our store because we got a new sauce. How about you just get back to the basics and take care of your customers and actually give them true value and rebuild that reputation that you used to have? Maybe get back to that. Maybe get back to, like honestly, if they just did a marketing campaign that was like, try us, order DoorDash on Chipotle, and if you get a small burrito, you get your money back. And I want to see them load up that burrito so damn fat that it comes ripped, and then they throw some extra in the bag just on top of that, some extra meat in the bag, like the expensive stuff, just to reiterate that you're getting your load, right? Like that I feel like could almost go viral to go anti this. But you're still in a tough environment, so that doesn't change. You know, that doesn't give people more money again, but it maybe gets people to focus on Chipotle more versus the others. So anyway, they say they're looking at Q4 with a conservative view. We're trying to re-engage people through extra promotions that we ran. We're trying to get the consumer back into our business. You know, once you lose people, it's really hard to get people back. You know, once you lose that consistency. Seems the consumer, they need a Sydney Sweeney, exactly. Consumer environment is deteriorating, and the many marketing efforts are not fully offsetting traffic. So it's like, that's the thing. You can still try to market, but if you blow too much, like I'd rather than spend the money on advertising, just go pure social in my opinion, and you know, get people to be like, damn, they really load up the plate now. That's the business you want to build, because that's the business that'll have a reputation for the very long term anyway. So yeah, I mean, this is a perfect example here of just this sort of layoff environment that we're in, where people are really constrained, and it sucks. I mean, look at this. We believe the consumer slowdown is really affecting our business in a meaningful way, but we would never let a crisis go to waste. You literally have Chipotle saying what's happening is a crisis. I mean, to be frank, the crisis that I think is going on is the crisis in their stock. Because if you look at their stock, since peak, these puppies have eviscerated value. We are now down on Chipotle from their peak of $69. We are now down 52.2%. More than half of the value of this company has absolutely been eradicated. Part of that is because a lot of these restaurant chains, they grow their revenue by adding stores. But at some point you start cannibalizing your own, other stores by just continuously adding more. That's why comp sales are such a good measure. In case you're not familiar, when you look at comp sales, you're comparing your existing restaurant sales to existing restaurant sales just to see what the difference is. And these are just companies that are suffering right now. If we saw this with, there's a reason Target is laying off people as well. Bloomberg just had a piece about how the building materials sector of even housing is probably going to slow down. So, they're looking at like Owen Corp, for example, and they're like, hey, like we're going to see a slowdown in building materials as well because people are just, they're kind of running out of money. And mind you, remember what I say sort of about the consumer. We had this explosion of enthusiasm and euphoria after Trump got elected because people, had this mindset of, okay, pro-business, stocks will do well, we could spend, hiring will do well, there'll be tax cuts. Great. But at some point that euphoria also goes away and we get back to reality, which is like, we're still kind of in like I call it a slow bleed economy. I don't really like the idea of a soft landing, mostly because soft landing implies like we're on final approach in a plane and we're actually coming into land. I think of this as more as just like, we're kind of like, we got like buff during COVID, or like maybe like really big during COVID or whatever. And now we're just like slowly getting cut and cut and cut, walking through a field of cactuses, and we're just sort of slowly bleeding out. And so it's that doesn't mean like the stock market's gonna fall off a cliff, but you're gonna keep seeing these signs where like one at a time, these companies just start getting taken out basically. So comp sales increased 0.3%. It's actually like, you have to understand that is negative, because now I want you to adjust comp sales for inflation, right? Adjust comp sales for inflation, and their sales have basically shrunk, 2.5%, right? So that sucks. And those delicious margins that Chipotle has always had, shrinking. It's because of the economy, stupid. As they say, it's the economy, stupid. So high frequency companies like Fiserv, I'm heavily concerned about SoFi. I love SoFi. Okay, don't get me wrong. I think they are an example of like banking done right. But I do think that one of the next order effects of a company or of this sort of economy we're in is that a company like SoFi, which is, just rejected the 3175 line essentially here. SoFi is so heavily exposed to personal lending that once we start seeing a rise in personal bankruptcies because people can't get a new job, unfortunately, that's where personal loans will probably start getting hit a little bit more. And so look at what's moving. I mean, look at these. We were looking at these in the course member live stream this morning. Parker Hannifin, Rockwell Automation, Symbotic. What do these companies have in common that are doing really well right now compared to like a Cheesecake Factory or a Chipotle? They're not relying on the consumer. The consumer is crushed. The next order effect of that is going to be when the consumer stops paying their bills. SoFi doesn't have that issue yet. So that's obviously a real risk factor. And I'm not trying to like bag on SoFi. I love SoFi. I'm just saying, if you're in SoFi, it's something to keep in the back of your mind as a very real risk factor. But the consumer getting whacked. We see it over and over again. So now another thing to look at when you look at Chipotle here is they're blunt about it. We continue to see persistent economic pressure. I mean, they're calling this a crisis. Now, they say they're trying to sharpen their marketing message, but again, you still have this impression of them trying to cut costs everywhere they can. Now, let's see if that actually exists in their earnings call, because sometimes what you could do is you could actually see that executive pressure in here. Additionally, inflation is accelerating in the mid-single digits, primarily due to tariffs and rising beef costs, and we expect this to remain in 2026. We do not plan to fully offset this incremental inflation in the near term because they don't have PP, right? This will pressure margins. Remember how I have always said that tariffs will bite companies when companies start taking it in the margin. Nobody wants to take it in the margin, but they don't want to lose even more market share than they have. At the same time, they're paying more money for labor, operating costs are up, marketing costs are up. They're trying to spend more on marketing, but they can't, it's not working. As if we look at that's all they talk about regarding costs. Their awareness of costs though trickles down. District managers call store managers, hey, we need to get costs down, we need costs down, we need costs down. That just means you're gonna get a smaller burrito. I remember that at Jamba Juice, when I worked at Jamba Juice, people wanted to see me like load up that smoothie, with the fruit. And then when you actually did it by the size that the scooper was supposed to be, it felt like you were kind of like gypping the customer because they gave these like really funky small scoops. Wow, what a surprise. The store I worked at, 10 years ago went bankrupt like 4 years ago because, they started getting into this mindset, oh, we got to cut. And I'm like, man, this is bull crap. And I don't always try to give people a really thick ladle of food. But anyway, in our best-in-class teams, we focus on doubling down on restaurant execution, sharp messaging, fine. We've got comp sales are basically down. Now, average check did increase 1.1%. That's sad. So average check increased 1%. Comp sales only up 0.3, which is negative when you look at inflation, which means that, no surprise, lower transactions. So you're getting fewer people coming through the business. So then let's see any other comments here. Outlook. we are anticipating declines. Wow. For the full year, they think comp sales will actually turn fully negative, so that if you take inflation off of that, it's even more negative. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's a consumer crisis, and it sucks. Somebody writes, Kevin was the best scooper. Nobody scooped better than I did. Well, I'd like to just say I took care of my customers. Remember, the name was Meet Kevin, providing more. Hey, who knows? Maybe I'm the reason the Jamba Juice went bankrupt. I just loaded up the customers too much. I gave them more than they paid for. I gave them so much. I gave. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's just the consumer environment we're in, and it makes sense why people flee to companies like even AMD. I mean, AMD's had some phenomenal momentum, but I want you to understand Symbotic. Symbotic has been this play that we've been talking about since $20 in the course member live streams, and the beauty about a company like Symbotic is that they sell to a company like Walmart. And what's so great about Walmart? Walmart is the place people go to when you get squeezed on money. Walmart, Sam's Club, which is obviously owned by Walmart. Get it? Sam Walton. Anyway, Costco, right? These are where people are going. Now, what helps support those companies? Well, they don't want to raise prices because they want to be known as the value brands. So what do they do to increase their margins? They don't hire more people. Walmart effectively has a hiring freeze. So what do they try to do? More robotics. What does Symbotic supply to Walmart? Industrial robots for automation. We're like Parker Hannifin, Industrial Play. What are they trying to do? More robots to try to increase their automotive automation capacities. Look at, if you haven't seen yet, the New York Times robotics article with Amazon. This is huge. This is what's happening because companies they're taking it in the margin. Look at this. Amazon plans to replace more than 500,000 jobs with robots. We don't even have 500,000 people working in the automotive industry and unions in America. I think we've got like 350,000 union workers still working, not retired, in the UAW. But anyway, over the past 2 decades, no company has done more to shape the American workplace than Amazon. Did you know, by the way, I didn't know this. The Amazon logo, like what makes the Amazon logo. I did not know this, so just like little, I guess, extra fun fact. I also, who knows, maybe it's not true. I think it is. It makes sense that it would be true, but I never knew this. But apparently, Amazon is the place that you go to get everything from A to Z, and like that's the little logo that the little orange. Anyway, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But anyway, in its ascent to become the nation's second largest employer, it has hired hundreds of thousands of warehouse workers, built an army of contract drivers, now in interviews, and a cache of internal strategic documents. This is what I love about the reporters, is that like they get these internal documents and all these leaks, right? But reveal that Amazon executives believe the company is on the cusp of the next big shift, replacing more than 500,000 jobs with robots. Amazon's U.S. workforce has more than tripled since 2018 to 1.2 mil, but Amazon's automation team expects the company can avoid hiring 160,000 people that it would otherwise need by 2027. That would save about 30 cents on each Amazon item that it picks, packs, and delivers. Executives told the board that they hoped robotic automation, that's where money's going to be made, folks. Not in humans, not in consumer plays, but in industrial robots. To continue avoid adding to its workforce in the coming years, they expect to sell twice as many products by 2033. I totally agree. Amazon's not going anywhere. That would translate to more than 600,000 people whom Amazon did not need to hire. Facilities designed for super fast deliveries. Amazon is trying to create warehouses that employ few humans at all. And documents show that Amazon's robotics team has an ultimate goal to automate 75% of its operations. Of course, like Amazon's robotic revolution. All I just want to know is exactly every single company in the Amazon robotics supply chain for what move, the racks, the pickers, the industrial arm robots, everything, man. That's what you got to do, is put together a list of Amazon robotic plays. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people, especially even seasonal workers, are going to get hit. By the way, kind of sad. I hate to say this, but you see how she has this transparent backpack right here? A lot of these companies are getting into transparent backpacks because they're worried about workers stealing. Isn't it like this picture is actually really sad if you think about it. It's built into an article of well, first of all, I mean, let's just be frank, a race that has been horribly discriminated against for, hundreds of years, or potentially even thousands of years. And then you're working a job that's going to get replaced by a robot. So you're not building any, like, what skill set are you building in this job? You're taking this job because you have to pay the damn bills. Maybe you're a mom, you got to feed your freaking kids, right? So you're not building any skills. You're getting a paycheck just to try to get by. And then, like, the definition of, like, corporate power is you don't even get a nice backpack. You have to use a transparent backpack to show that you're not stealing from the company. It sucks. And this is unfortunately one of the big downsides of capitalism is these are going to take a lot of jobs. And now in the future, it does lead typically to greater per capita income, right? Generally, wealth across the nation goes up through a capitalistic structure, but there's just going to be a lot of pain in between. And that pain shows up in consumer stocks. That pain shows up in the crisis that we're seeing with Chipotle. And it's just going to suck. All right. So, okay. So what else do we have in markets right now? We've got, let's go take a peek here. So, yeah, even Teradyne's up today. So I was pretty bearish on CoreWeave and Tesla this morning. And I'm actually surprised that right now it looks like Tesla is moving even further down towards the 433 line. We wrote this in the Alpha report this morning that Tesla had a potential of revisiting 433. But I didn't think it would get all the way down there because that's going to end up being like a 7% decline. But right now it is trending straight there. It just cannot catch a bid. Netflix caught a little bit of a bid this morning. This was a really nice swing. And then NVIDIA has tried a couple times now, but it's still over $200. Oh, I'm getting hiccups from coffee. That's gross. AMD, I hate to say this as well. I'm just like, spoiler alert, but it's probably going back to 232. Okay, I'm going to give you my thesis as to why. And I'm not trying to like bag on, AMD here over NVIDIA or something. Like, I love AMD. I think they're great. I'm, streaming right now on an AMD PC. But, the problem is there's so much profit that has now been built into the AMD stock that you're probably going to see some profit taking at this point. Hate to say it. That's it. So something else to watch. Let's see here. We've got... okay, so today, we've got this. Okay, perfect. Now, I added a couple new soundboard items. Let me know what you think about these. Does anybody even recognize these? Your response to do you recognize these is probably just going to be
no.
But, at least we've now analyzed what the reason is for this sort of like consumer crisis or crash. And what is that reason?
It's because that's why.
Sorry, I love my soundboards. I gotta stop. It's bad. I have like soundboard fever. I have so many soundboard items that I have to kind of like remove items from my soundboard because I'm running out of room on my soundboard because I don't want to like turn the page to go to other soundboard items. But anyway, that's gonna be a new board item for a while. So unless everybody hates it. Anyway, all right, good. So next we are going to talk about. Okay, somebody here in the chat says shrinkflation. Well, yeah, I mean that's because companies are frustrated about taking it in the margin, right? And so that's what happens. Have you seen like? Oh, I remember. I haven't looked at this in I feel like 18 months, but I remember one of the first signs of shrinkflation back in the day was like they started taking beer. I think it was like Heineken's. Were going from 12-ounce bottles to like 11.2-ounce bottles. So they shaved like 0.8% off, and it was like, yo, you gotta be kidding me. But that was a great example of, what's it called? The start of shrinkflation. Okay, good. So what else have we here? Let's go find out. Let's go look at, we'll start with the doomers over here. And we've got Trump Xi truce buys time. That's always how it works. Core scientific investors spurn CoreWeave takeover in vote. Tesla recalls Cybertruck a 10th time in less than 2 years. Oh, there's also talk about the Cybercab event, which Elon's been teasing already on X anyway, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. But we saw this, the one-year truce on Thursday is likely only to stabilize relations rather than resolve the fundamental differences. It's basically like a 90-day pause, right? But for a year. And it still leaves in place, the extra 10% tariffs, which brings you to roughly trade-weighted about 47%. So not ideal. You still have some aggressiveness here. Drifting apart. I mean, that'll essentially continue to happen. It's unfortunate. But, okay, so I want to look at the Tesla Cybercab news. Somebody here, Scott. What's up, Scott? Scott says, what happens when the economy slows down because people are let go? AI and robotics lower the amount of times a dollar moves the economy through 3 to 5. Yeah, the velocity of money argument. Well, I mean, right now we're not seeing as much of a velocity of money reduction, partly because the money is just circulating through industrial capex, right? Industrial capital expenditures. And so you're still seeing that circulation. But you're right, like what does happen when the consumer is not only capable of spending less, of spending less money. I mean, broadly, you get lower GDP is what it is. So lower velocity of money is just going to translate directly to lower GDP. And that's why I think we're going through this slow bleed economy. It's one of the reasons I've been very mid-range on the bull-bear scale, because we're going through, it's not like this economy by no means, and I even said since April, it was like the second week in April, I'm like, hey, like we could be going straight up from here because it's going to take a while for the economy to slow and tariffs to hit. And that's what we've seen. But now we're starting to see the bite at companies like exactly Chipotle or others. And so it's a good question that you're asking. But anyway, I want to see that the Cybercab news. So Cybercab. So, Cybercab. Okay, so there's talk about a Cybercab event, potentially in November. I was talking to a sell-side analyst about the Cybercab event. He was all robotaxi mad, but I really think the humanoid robot story is what's promising. Brett Whitten, he's very, very bullish Tesla, mind you. Tesla will need to throw 100 to 200 billion. Wow, he's bullish Tesla, and he's saying Tesla will need to throw 100 to 200 billion into AI compute to solve the humanoid robot commercialization problem. He's probably right. It will be great money spent, yes, but it's a very, very long-term investment. And robotaxi should kick off plenty of cash flow to fund it. So Brett thinks you can get to the robotic transition through robotaxi printing, essentially. Okay, so interesting argument. Cash flow on hand is too big to forego. Return on investment capital be damned. Fine. That was the V-Robot event. We want to see public testing. We saw that. So We saw this Tesla event. Fine. That's an older image. Yeah, so let's go back to Brett here for a moment. The idea, I think, is people want Elon, and a lot of investors really want this vote to pass for Elon. And so as a result, I think that Elon is pushing whatever kind of announcements or events or teasers that can be done to try to increase the likelihood of his vote passing. So let's see. Cybercab is heading to China's Import Expo and public testing. An internal announcement. Okay. So here we go. Tesla plans Cybercab Asia Pacific debut in Shanghai at a November Expo. This is news of today from Reuters, and they're going to showcase the Cybercab at the China International Import Expo in Shanghai that runs from the 5th through the 10th. Okay, it's unclear if Tesla has plans to roll out the Cybercab on Chinese roads. Actually would be kind of brilliant, because in America, the two-door car market is very bad. The Honda Civic Coupe, for example, was discontinued. People don't love the idea of a two-door car in America. The frank reality is most of our cars are utilized by, one person. So realistically, a lot of cars don't need 4 seats, 5 seats, or whatever. Realistically, we only need a 2-seat car. So the Cybercab is great for that. But the problem is with a 2-door, 2-seat car, you really don't have an American consumer that ends up actually throwing money at it, because then they go, oh, but what if I want to bring my kids or my friends or my family or whatever? So you really need people that are typically going to be Tesla investors that then will go, well, I'll just buy a second car to support the cause. But they don't actually need it. And so the Chinese market could be better for that. So I think that might be why you're getting a Cybercab potential demo in China, because a lower cost vehicle in China where you have so much competition amongst lower cost vehicles would be critical. Now, Tesla sells about 650-ish thousand vehicles in China, which is a substantial amount of their sales that go to China. We already know this. The problem with this is Tesla's Chinese sales are declining relative to other businesses. And so this could be a way to sort of juice some of those Tesla China sales, because relative to other automakers, their sales are declining, not just in China, but also in Europe. In Europe, sales are down 10% year over year for Teslas and down 17.5% year over year. So you need to juice this. Part of this is because you have Chinese companies now making an entrance into European markets, and their sales are actually rocketing in European markets. So, the Chinese are taking over. And China is, at the same time as this sort of like 1-year truce is going on with China and Donald Trump, you are seeing other countries in Europe fade away from the United States in favor of China, because you can actually get cheap product from China. So you're seeing this almost coalescence between China and Europe, China and other countries around the world, China and South America, South American countries, as part of this trade war. So, this could be why they're looking for a Cybercab event in China. So take a look at this. Unveiled by Elon last October, the AV was tentatively launched in Austin with invite-only access. This is because of the robotaxi plan. The Shanghai showcase will come even as Chinese companies such as Baidu and Pony AI have been conducting robotaxi trials in various cities for years. Okay, that's fine. I mean, we do that here in America as well, via Waymo, and of course our robotaxi rollout in like Austin or San Francisco with supervised drivers. But anyway, here's an article from electric-vehicles.com. Tesla to begin public road test for Cybercab before 26 production. Vehicle was sighted in Los Altos, California. Part of this, by the way, like they do this on purpose. These are called controlled leaks. and then they'll send, the pictures to Tesla influencers. So basically, you get insiders in the company that are like, hey, don't tell anyone I sent this to you, but take a look at this leaked image. You're like, oh, I got a leaked image, and then you post it. It's basically a way of like revealing information without having to wait for the public to find it themselves. And so this is very normal, and it's not a surprise that it's coming right ahead of the shareholder vote, because Elon's going to try to do everything he can to drive up attention in business. This is why Robin's going on the circuit of going on CNBC and Bloomberg to push the shareholder vote. And so a lot of people obviously expect that retail is going to overwhelmingly approve the stock comp plan for Elon, because people broadly view it as, hey, what's good for Elon will be good for me. Elon posted this 20 hours ago. Just saw this in a conference room at Tesla Global Engineering headquarters in Palo Alto. Now, why would he showcase, essentially the Cybercab in this post here if it wasn't sort of a mission statement for the company of like the next phase? And that's, I think, what is creating a lot of excitement here. The question is, will it make money? And that's a big question because we've seen this before, and a lot of people see this as broadly as just FUD, but it is very interesting to comment on. An internal Tesla analysis found that Robotaxi would lose money, and you'll never guess what Elon Musk did in response. Actually, we probably will guess. But understand for a moment that over time, I actually don't believe that Tesla operating the Robotaxi network will be the most beneficial for Tesla. I actually think they would be better off manufacturing the car at the highest margins that they can and then selling the vehicles in mass numbers and quantities to companies like Uber or just individual operators. Mostly because I think the margins on on sort of like taxi services will really compress, because you're going to get companies that want market share over margins. I think Google and Waymo wants market share over margins. Because get this, okay, ready for this? I think in the future, you're going to Rokuify taxi services. So Roku sells TVs at a loss so they can sell you advertisements on the software. Inside the taxi, you'll have a captive audience, you'll have larger and larger screens, especially when you get rid of the steering wheel and you have no need for a driver compartment. You'll really just have a box that's a moving ad for people, and you have this captive audience in there, and you'll be able to pay extra to have a ride without ads. I think that's how in the future taxi rides will be monetized. I don't actually think the money will be in doing the actual driving service, because the cost of the electricity or whatever will frankly be too great, as well as the maintenance of the actual vehicles. But back in October of 2024, Tesla investors saw the We Robot event, and then we saw the peek into the Cybercab. Product came with limited details, that's fine. We subsequently saw spottings, that's fine. But the information found that an internal analysis at Tesla suggested that the Cybercab was unlikely to sell well or become profitable. Right, well, I don't believe that the Cybercab, and this is a concern that I have, I think unfortunately the Cybercab will sell much like the Cybertruck. Now, I own the Cybertruck, and I think it's a phenomenal vehicle. I mean, you've seen me, post pictures of the Cybertruck. I love this thing. I think it's a utility machine, but, not a lot of people are buying it. The sales for the Cybertruck have really been a flop, and it's really sad because it's a great vehicle. Like, here was me on October 25th, which is just 5 days ago. Lowe's dashing for house hack again with Jack. We got, same company Reinvest, obviously, but we got the branding on here. We got the boxes, the racks on the top. We got the whole thing's wrapped, obviously. But, it's a functional, great vehicle. But the problem is people aren't buying it. So we can love the Cybercab, but when a functional Cybertruck isn't selling, this is me in a very disorganized manner, just throwing a bunch of medicine cabinets on top of what I actually did have organized. You can see the various different racks I use. I can carry vanities in the back rack or whatever over here. And this is great. It's a fantastic tool. The problem is the Cybercab is even less useful than that. And that's why I get worried about them mass producing a Cybercab as opposed to, a Model 2 or Model 3 that's just pared down. But anyway, Musk buried the report instead of facing reality. We have a lot of modeling that showed the payback around full self-driving and robotaxi was going to be slow. That's a red flag, especially when, according to Rohan Patel, that's a problem, especially when right now Tesla's selling for like a six peg. You've got a lot of enthusiasm on humanoid robotics and future profits that we're trying to pull forward without seeing the real growth in profitable endeavors today. That's a problem. Tesla's former head of business development and policy, who left the company last year, told the outlet it's going to be choppy. It's going to be very, very hard outside of the U.S. and given the regulatory environment or lack of regulatory environment, right? Because countries like Germany make it even harder to do this. Per the information, the internal analysis was based on Musk's own harebrained assumptions that individuals would buy cars, but a large portion of the sales would go to fleet operators, and the vehicles would mostly be used for ride sharing. I think that's a great way to do it. I actually agree with Elon there that you want it to go to fleet operators. Ultimately, I think Elon is just uninterested in making a Volkswagen Golf type car. Right. I think the board has actually been pushing Elon to do this. And so I think this is honestly dated at this point. I mean, obviously this is from April, back when they killed the Model 2. But more recently, you've had Robin talk about new models coming out. I really hope it's not just the Cybercab. That's my hope. Unfortunately, this is somewhat implying that it's just going to be the Cybercab. I don't see it as being a functional and high seller, especially since even with version 14, we just aren't at the robotaxi level yet. And so unfortunately, in the near term, I do think that Tesla has a good shot of going up following the vote. So once the vote comes in, I think that's probably the near-term high for Tesla. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a revisit down to like the 295 line over time, which is, bearish, I would say, call it like 2026. So anyway, some thoughts on this sort of like Cybercab leak. It doubles down on actually what I'm most nervous about Tesla doing. Let's see what some of your comments are here. Somebody here writes, robotaxis have a driver up front, nowhere near Waymo yet. I mean, this is true at this point. So if Elon comp package gets voted up or down again or whatever, if it gets voted down again, Elon seems like the type of person who's going to rage quit. I think that's like great marketing for the plan. I don't actually think he will rage quit, but I do think they're using that as a, encouragement for people to vote. Somebody says it's a great time to buy the Tesla car, not the stock. Somebody else says launch a subscription service monthly and Tesla Cybercab, you ride anywhere. Problem is government regulations could limit that for now. Right. Yeah, you're really up against, remember with Tesla's original launches with their electric vehicles, they had the government supporting them, showering them with money, right? Unfortunately, right now we're in an environment of pressure, a weak consumer, a weak regulatory environment, a government that is not supportive towards electric vehicles, a government that's not that supportive to fully autonomous vehicles at this point, and then rising competition. So anyway. So how bullish on automation and robotics, but bearish on Tesla? Right. So I think that's a fair question to reconcile. So, and it's evident to me that, you're not a course member, and so I have to fill in the gap, right? But here's what I say to course members. I probably should just keep this to course members, but it's what I say to course members. When I look at a company like Tesla that's trading for a six peg, I would rather invest in a cheap pickaxe play than in the hope play. So I think, unfortunately, that right now Tesla stock is a hope play, but I'd rather invest in the pickaxe sellers that are selling the components that would go into Optimus robots, because it is not a foregone conclusion that the Optimus robot is going to be the best robot, right? I think that Tesla proved to us that they were the best electric vehicle and the best ADAS suite, but it is not a foregone conclusion that they're going to be the best robotaxi software. It's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to be the best robotics play. We don't know that. We knew it was the best car because in 2017, when I bought my Black X, and I loved riding my Black X, I could touch and feel that car and go, people don't understand how great of a revolution full self-driving is, supervised, which is fine. Autopilot, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the same thing. People didn't realize that revolution at that point. And so think about this. In 2017, I go buy Tesla and I start making daily videos almost about how amazing Tesla is. And what you have is me going, here's a great product that's making a lot of money for the company right now that has government incentives. This is a great stock to buy. What we have right now is, here is hope of a great product in the future, but we don't know if Tesla's going to be the one to provide it at a valuation that already prices in all of the hope for that happening. That is a completely opposite scenario from Tesla 2017. Completely opposite. Like, the numbers that I have to do right now to justify Tesla remind me of what I had to do with Square to justify even remotely considering Square. Which is now Block, which is now ticker XYZ, which is just like, it's just stupid. But look at this. So Block, which by the way, this year fell off this bottom support line over here again. By the way, write this line down if you don't have it yet on the stock. 49.77. I mean, look at that. You've had like three it's not perfect. You've got a near perfect here. But anyway, that seems to be a pretty dang strong support line over here for Block. But anyway, I remember back over here, like the magic that you had to put into a spreadsheet to justify, it's still a bad investment then, obviously. It's way down, but that's the point. Is like back here, to justify the spreadsheet for Block, you had to do some crazy assumptions. And I hate to say it, but like part of what I'm seeing now is I have to go in here and go, oh, it's not going to be a manufacturer. It's going to be a service play. And, I have to assume that we're going to nearly double our energy plays. We're going to sell 2 million Optimuses by 2030. That could be really ambitious, right? We're going to double the number of vehicles we're doing right now at 4 million vehicles. We're going to have margins that are, 25% gross margins on the Optimus and 18% margin on the vehicles. We're not at 18% gross margin on vehicles right now, right? We're like 15%, right? So, and that gets me to 564 in 2030 with those assumptions. If I now go in here and I say, okay, well, if I go to a margin of just 15% on just the automotive side, I go down to $491 on the stock in 5 years. You see what I mean? If I now kill Optimus out of here, I put Optimus at 0 because we're still not doing Optimus, but we're selling 4 million vehicles because we're putting the Cybercab in here, which is a cheaper vehicle. And we throw that in there at a 15% gross margin. I'm at a $324 stock. And that's at a services margin, right? If I take the manufacturing multiple, which it should be, it's a $200 stock. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, I can love Tesla, the company. Like, I love getting my software update. I just got a software update on the Cybertruck yesterday. And like, on the inside, I'm kind of like giddy. I'm like, oh man, I want to go out there and I want to go ride my Cybertruck because I want to see, what the latest progress is on FSD, right? Like, I'm excited about that. As a consumer, I'm like, dude, like, I feel like I go in there and I refresh the Tesla store to see if they've got more merch I can buy. Like, I'm like a shill. But then you look at the fundamentals, I'm like, I'm gonna buy something else, right? Anyway, somebody here writes, cybersecurity is a good investment. It's funny you say that because in the Meet Kevin app, we have a community tab. It's sort of like our little internal Discord replacement. And this morning, I replied to one of the community posts and I go, I love cybersecurity. We're big fans of like Cloudflare, for example. And the problem is Cloudflare, net is the name of the stock, is an 8 peg. It's like, well, how much do I justify, these valuations on some of these plays? Like, that's scary, right? So there's a lot to be considered there, and I just don't know that that's the right place. So anyway, then what else do we have here? Can you explain financial engineering that had MetaPay? Oh, okay. Well, this is a question about Meta. It's a different topic. I thought we were going to ask about Tesla here. Let me see here. So somebody writes BYD is better. BYD is it's Chinese manufacturing, right? Maybe we need to do another Tesla FSD video. I have a portable live streaming setup in the Tesla. It'd be great. Somebody here says, let me put this analogy on Tesla stock price. You are paying a high school prospect athletic with an NFL salary. I mean, that's kind of probably a good way to put it. You know, I like this. So anyway, my take. The thing is, I just want to like say this one more thing about Tesla, and then we'll move on from Tesla. But if you don't fully knee bend to Tesla, Elon doesn't like you. You know, I think that's why I actually consider this an honor. I actually think it's an honor that I was blocked by Elon on X and then unblocked by Elon, because it's like I am like so on the teeter-totter of like not being good enough for him. You know what I mean? And I love it, because you know who supports this channel? And you know who supports House Hack and Reinvest, my companies? You do. That's it. Okay? Like, there's no like Elon sending money or whatever. It's like, it's 99% you guys. It's great. So, you know, and then we got like the occasional helium sponsor or something, right? Or Baselane sponsor. Okay, cool. But to 99%, does that really matter? No. So anyway, and those are very, very transparent too. But I do think, like what we saw with that Neo robot yesterday, I do think a lot of people out there are getting paid to shill like that Neo robot, which I think is a total scam. And they're not disclosing that they're getting paid or they're getting massive perks, which doesn't really matter in this market because there's no regulator anymore. I mean, Donald Trump basically gutted the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which would be the bureau that would make sure that people are actually properly disclosing their advertisements via fair advertising. I mean, maybe the Federal Trade Communication would step in, but, you know, they're probably all furloughed right now. So, you know, in a weird way, the government shutdown basically just licenses white collar, you know, skirting of the law. And it's sad because it shouldn't be that way. And, you know, bad karma catches up anyway. So, all right, let's see what we got going on. Okay. Nothing. All right. How about the Doomers? The world of investing. Oh, shut up.
Key number to watch is CapEx. Meta last quarter.
Yeah, buddy. Talk to me about CapEx.
Capital expenditures range to $69 billion. Now we're watching to see how much higher the CapEx guide is. Analysts expect 47% growth in CapEx next year to $97 billion. And overall, analysts are bullish. 87% have a buy rating, with the stock up 28% year to date.
Yeah, I mean, Meta, if it weren't for that tax charge, they'd actually be doing substantially well. You know, that's one of the you know, frustrating things about Meta is like there was a beat across the board except for that tax charge. But that's all right. You know, that's what happens. I mean, you also saw to some extent that with Fiserv. You know, you take this big adjustment because of Argentina. Whew, boy, they got smoked. Oh, I see. This is why we're not on the Doomers, because we've actually got CNBC up twice. Gross. So let's see here. We don't want CNBC up twice. We're trying to get to the Doomers over here. Can I get to the Doomers? Guide. I make it so hard for us today. There we go. There we go. Doomberg! All right, here we go.
There from the other cloud names and what that might or might not spell for Amazon, or at least investors' attitude towards it. Elsewhere, we know what the story is and the top stories of the day. Stocks moving in different directions on the earnings context. Meta's down 12%. Really interesting. Notably higher capex in 2026 and 2025. Alphabet gave us the same number of capex, but they also told us how revenues directly tied to AI are growing. And right now, the market's rewarding that with the Google pairing up 5%. This is Bloomberg Tech.
Yeah, all right. That's boring. Okay, good. So let's go see what else is going on in the world. So we talked Chipotle this morning. We talked Tesla. Let's go do some more analysis. I mean, Chipotle was really, you know, a guide into the broader consumer, right? The consumer's just getting smacked and whacked. We will also now go see what other news we have. So, let's jump into, okay, that's old. Okay, good. Okay, here we go. So, we talked about the Cybertrucks. The Cybertruck recall was the installation of the off-road light bar accessory that could detach and increase the risk of collision. Oh, great. Why? Overly bright parking lights after a safety recall. Wait, but where is the issue on this? Installation of an off-road light bar accessory. I hope that's not because of the mounts. Because the amount, like the mounts are, I have a lot of things mounted to the mounts right now. Anyway. Okay, so airline CEOs are going to meet Vance to try to pressure him to end the shutdown. Yeah, good one. China says it's working with the U.S. on resolving the TikTok issue. Of course, that's not given up yet. Let's see here. Trump orders nuclear weapons trials. Did you see this? This I thought was, this was somewhat interesting. This, Trump orders nuclear weapons trials after nuclear tests. You know, we have been in a society that has honored not proliferating nuclear weapons, which means expanding the manufacturing and testing of nuclear weapons for decades. You know, we've had nuclear non-proliferation treaties and otherwise. But now, President Trump said the U.S. is going to match its rivals in testing nuclear weapons after Russia in recent days announced trials of a nuclear-powered underwater drone and nuclear-capable cruise missile. Yeah, Russia also had this torpedo that they revealed that can essentially create smaller tsunamis that could devastate coastal areas. So a torpedo that essentially creates such a seismic shock that it creates a tsunami at a coastal region. So a lot of this seems to be an increase of aggression against specifically Russia because we're really losing that fight against Russia. Part of me believes that one of the reasons we're losing the fight against Russia is because China is saying, Russia, you have to keep fighting America. Like, China wants this. Because the more Russia fights America and creates this sort of distraction geopolitically, the more frustrated Trump gets, the weaker Trump appears against Putin. If Trump appears weak against Putin, then China can appear strong towards the Europeans or South Americans or otherwise to cozy up to them and build better trade relations with them. This is why we're getting not a trade deal, but a kick down the road. And it's a 12-month kick down the road, which basically takes us right up to midterms, which essentially means it's just going to get kicked down the road even more. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to increase our nuclear weapons testing on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately. And I get it. You know, it's very tit for tat. Well, like, oh, well, if they're doing it, we should do it too. It's just a reversal from what we've historically seen the United States do. Okay, so then we have, wow, I just got a message here. Looks like, wow, geez, yes, I'm just looking at some of the fundraising amounts here. A lot of fundraising amounts just coming in here for House I Can Reinvest. Great for, I guess people are looking to diversify, huh? But anyway, Trump appeared to be reacting to Russia's accelerated testing of nuclear-capable superweapons in recent weeks. Yeah, here it is. Russia said it had tested an atomic-powered torpedo drone capable of carrying nuclear weapons days after its military hailed a trial of a long-distance cruise missile. This is exactly how we're seeing escalation and not de-escalation. Part of this is Putin wanting to send a signal to Trump. Don't even think about sending, you know, old school Tomahawk missiles. Why would you send Tomahawk missiles when this is what you're now up against? This is saber rattling. It's very common. It's what we've seen historically with countries like North Korea. The problem is Russia is so in bed with China that it makes this a lot harder. Now, Foreign Affairs has a piece on the America and China relationship, which is interesting. They say, in repeated cycles of confrontation, there's basically been a detente. So, like, it's almost like an agreement to disagree, right? And so it does imply that to some extent we don't want to fully decouple from China, which is great, but it still suggests we have problems that need to be solved, and China is setting us up as America versus everyone else. This is what I mean. China gets to cozy up to everyone, right? The possibility of an inflection point seems to stem in part from changes in U.S. foreign policies. From Beijing's perspective, Trump's first term marked the onset of a period of strategic competition with the United States, viewing China as the most serious adversary. It was, in other words, the U.S. versus China. Under Biden, Washington maintained the same goals, but sought to do so in concert. So it was really, under Biden, you had Biden's advisors and the West versus China. Now, it's just the U.S. versus essentially all, in part because of Liberation Day. That's exactly why China is now cozying up to build foundations with other countries, and why I think China is pressuring Russia to keep this going. And I think China is supporting and supplying Russia with the advanced chip hardware and technology, the military hardware that they need to keep these wars going. We already know they're sending munitions to Russia. This is no surprise. It's just there are more reasons as to why China wants to build out their own, NVIDIA-style chip technology than just artificial intelligence. It all has to do with like the AI drone armies that are being talked about being built. And who wants drones the most? Russia right now. Take a look at this. You've got articles here. This is in Tom's Hardware, China's autonomous military combat drone, powered by DeepSeek, highlights NVIDIA reliance for now. Right? China's North Industries Corporation, a state-owned defense firm, unveiled the P-60, an autonomous military vehicle that can travel 50 kilometers an hour, that's 31 miles an hour, featuring autonomous combat support capabilities. According to Reuters, the drone is powered by DeepSeek, but details remain a secret and suggest that they continue to use NVIDIA GPUs. So this is where through, they're skirting by buying these through Singapore or otherwise. They're still using our hardware, but China wants to do everything they can to decouple. And this is understandable. If they could use Blackwell for now, fine. But understand, these movements have military implications, which is also kind of scary. And so this is why this truce of buying time, great, 1-year truce, but it just buys China more time to decouple from the United States as well, which isn't great. So going back to what we have with this piece about Russia, I just want to think about this escalation here from Trump is really a sign that we're kind of losing in some of these negotiations. I'm not trying to be anti-Trump. I'm just saying for us to have to prop up our nuclear tests as a way to sort of try to gain leverage over Russia and China is to me indicative of a failure, not a success. And I get it. It's going to be branded as, well, if they're doing it, we should do it too. Right, but this is like Gandhi, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind, right? This is the opposite of what has been done for decades. Remarks later on a flight back from South Korea, Trump provided no further clarity, but says, we don't do testing. We halted it many, many years ago. Well, let's be clear, we're still secretly doing. But anyway, the U.S. last nuclear explosive test was in 1992. But we test delivery system. Exactly. This is my reference, right? We regularly test the delivery systems. ICBMs, submarines, bombers, mock weapons. Russia is the only other nation with a nuclear arsenal. Trump's social media post came hours before a meeting with Xi Jinping. Trump has previously, see, exactly, because it's leverage building. Exactly. It's Donald Trump revealed what he was going to negotiate with Putin with Xi Jinping 2 days before on purpose, because they're trying to build leverage before the meeting, because the meetings are really just they're a facade. They're really not much of a meeting. Much of the work has already been done by negotiators and sort of pre-public negotiating, and then they do their photo op. Trump has previously expressed interest in brokering a nuclear treaty with China to reduce nuclear stockpiles, though China has resisted. Well, of course, because China has 300 nuclear warheads. Russia's got like 5,800. I think we've got somewhere around 5,800 to 6,000 as well. This is a problem. And then this is where people then say like, oh, well, Kevin, if you were the president, what would you do? Well, first of all, I'm not the president, and I'm not saying I have the answers. But I do think that this sort of lash out from Trump with some taco, but some more tariffs. Then we're going to do nuclear tests. Those sort of aggressions are signs that the Trump method might not work in the long term. It might work in the short term. And so I typically think what's better is working in conjunction with Democratic allies. And I'm not saying Democrats like left. I mean Democratic countries. So the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Germany, Poland. These are countries that we could, Japan, South Korea, right? Taiwan, that's gonna piss China off. But working with these nations makes us much more powerful against the rise of a communist directed state or a dictatorial state like Putin. That's how you fight them. But alienating our allies to then try to go fight China and Russia with fire, right? Fight fire with fire, while alienating our friends, it's probably the scariest and most short-termism method you could use relative to long-termism approaches, which you're much better off negotiating through like proper trade, not this tariff stuff. I don't like tariffs. We don't have to go deep into the economics of tariffs, so people get mad at me. But proper trade resilience with your allies. Anyway, that's my take. So I see this nuclear stuff as actually a sign of a failure. In 2019, the U.S. withdrew from also under Trump, landmark disarmament treaty with Russia because it said Moscow had violated a treaty. That was just a ruse to try to, again, fight fire with fire against Russia. China tested a nuclear bomb in 96, but continues to test nuclear-capable, missiles. We test missiles all the time. Of course, this is not a big deal. That's why I clarified as well that Trump says, "Oh, we haven't done tests in a while." It's like, no, we test all the time. But anyway, just a little bit of color when you see this stuff about the nukes. I think it's worth paying attention to. All right, let's jump back in over here, market-wise.
Potential of rise is less, and the risk that you're taking for it is also less. So this is another way of taking exposure, positive exposure to these companies without, however.
Do you think she's green screen or is she actually in a hotel? And why does she look like AOC?
Ipek, if I take the earnings statements and call transcripts of all the tech earnings we have so far, run them through ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to cross-reference for a theme that is not capital expenditures, what would I get? What else do you see that they have common between them?
Well, the capital expenditures are actually rising. I don't know. I haven't asked ChatGPT what he thinks about it. But what we see is that this is growing.
Why is it a he?
And there is investment worries about that. But if you do not invest today, again, a year and a half from now, you might hurt into bigger capacity constraints. What's happening right now is if today, for Microsoft, for example, you are not able to catch up with the demand, then tomorrow it's going to be harder because it will just going divergingly because the demand is going to be exponentially rising, and that's the main issue. That's why these companies are investing so badly or so highly. And this is, I think, what ChatGPT will tell you, because as the AI applications will be up and running, demand for computing is going to rise exponentially. And this is exactly why NVIDIA is also not only concentrating today on the AI applications, but also on the networks and intelligent networks as well, to make sure that even the networks and the pipelines will be able to handle all that data flow down the road.
We did get a Fed cut quarter point for a second consecutive meeting, and we did get a warning that a December rate cut is not a foregone conclusion. Ipek, Oscar Deshkaya, senior markets analyst at Swissquote, having the earnings and Fed story both. Okay, let's head over to the Economic Club of Washington, where Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon is speaking with David Rubenstein, Carlyle co-founder and host of Peer to Peer on Bloomberg Television.
Business education for small businesses, given the importance that small businesses play in our economy here in the United States, the entrepreneurial spirit, I think 35% of the private workforce in the United States is small businesses, that if we could make an investment in that community and use our expertise, our knowledge, and transmit it into that community,
this
it would spur more investment, more economic growth. And so over the course of the last 15 years, we've had 17,000 businesses go through this program. And a few years ago, we created a platform called 10,000 Businesses Voices to bring...
This is just nonsense. This idea of like, oh, yeah, we want to invest in small businesses. You realize that's just like branding. That's these companies trying to shill to argue like, oh, yeah, we're looking out for the little guy. Bull frickin' crap, man. I don't believe it as far as I can throw it, honestly. It ain't good. But it's just my take. I'm going to click away from this because this is just freaking boring crap. I'll be your channel changer for you. How about that?
Amazing. And produced multiple deals. Edward Lawrence of the White House. Edward, run us through what came out of the meeting, please.
Yeah, first, the president is on his way back here now to the White House. The president saying that this agreement allows the export now of rare earth minerals to go around the globe. It's being described to me at the White House as this is sort of bringing the break in the chill that has fallen over the relationship between the U.S. and China.
He's a very tough negotiator. That's not good. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
So that was before the meeting. After, both sides released glowing readouts. The Chinese saying this: China will further deepen reform across the board, expand opening up, and promote higher quality economic growth while achieving an appropriate increase in economic output and advance well-rounded human development and common prosperity for all.
This is a de-escalation for sure. It lets both sides claim victory. It's very, very good news in terms of overall global economic growth.
So President Trump secured some big items for his agenda. China will back off its strict export controls of rare earth minerals for 1 year. China suspends counter tariffs on U.S. imports, will crack down on the export of fentanyl as well as the drugs that are used to make fentanyl, and will buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans between now and January, and then buy 25 million metric tons of soybeans each year through 2028.
Our great soybean farmers who the Chinese used as political pawns, that's off the table, and they should prosper in the years to come. They backed President Trump, and they knew that he had their back.
And the U.S. will reduce tariffs of Chinese imports coming into the U.S. to 47%, hold off for a year shipbuilding tariffs they were going to impose, as well as pause the 50% ownership test to the entity list rule was going to affect. The bottom line here is that mutual economic destruction is now off the table, Stu.
Off the table. We're very glad to hear that. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Edward.
Yeah.
President Trump's new White House ballroom got a fundraising boost from one of the world's most powerful tech titans. I think I know who it is.
Oh, yeah.
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA's Jensen Huang donating an undisclosed amount to this $300 million plus ballroom. And Huang said, I'm delighted to do it. So he joins fellow big tech names, Amazon, Apple, and Google in ponying up the cash. It's
actually like such smart money for these companies because, you know, now NVIDIA gets brought up in discussions with China again. And it's like they could unlock so much high profit revenue. I mean, think about it. If they sell another $100 billion in chips, that's to net income after taxes, like $58 billion to NVIDIA. So like if NVIDIA spends, donates $1 billion to the ballroom or 400 million or 500 million or whatever, who cares, bro? Rounding error if they could sell more of these chips globally, dude. Rounding error.
30. I see 7 losers. The rest of them are winners. Dow's at 47,800. The socialist Zoran Mandani is fueling a real estate boom outside New York City. Realtors say so many families are interested in escaping Mandani's New York that reminds them of the COVID exodus. We'll tell you where homes are selling very, very well. That's next.
All right, let's go check the dooms again. Hopefully they're off the Rubenstein interview. That's pretty boring.
What is the story? Why is the business community not working?
Okay, fine. We'll go see if Sarah Eisen has anything for us. Dude, Sarah was great yesterday. Let's go check out Sarah.
And obviously with the government shutdowns, we don't know exactly when this is going to get there. But, we're doing everything we can to make sure that this gets addressed ASAP because our holiday season's coming up. And we need an injunction.
Right. Well, there's a lot to follow here, and obviously time seems to be of the essence for your business. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Well, coming up, we head to Capitol Hill. The government shutdown now in its 30th day, and we'll look at how thousands of small business contractors.
All right. They're all boring. They don't have anything to talk about. It's fine. We'll go find something else to talk about. Okay, good. So we talked about Russia. We talked about the nuclear weapons tests. I don't love it at all. Let's go see the information. We talked about Tesla. We talked about Chipotle. We talked about Starbucks. Oh, interesting. What do we have here? There's actually literally front page, a new piece from the information. Elon Musk has already dampened expectations for when Tesla will widely roll out his robotaxi service, but it's questionable whether Tesla will even be able to hit the lowball expansion figures that Elon Musk disclosed last week. Tesla has yet to complete all the necessary paperwork to start offering rides in Arizona and Nevada. Okay, let me close this door. Enthusiastic children out there. Okay, the third state where he plans to launch is Florida, where looser regulation makes it easier. Yet to apply to operate a fully autonomous vehicle in California. So the slowness with which Tesla's moving could complicate Musk's ability to target his shared last week a goal of launching 8 to 10 metros in 2 months. Right. Half of the U.S. production or population by the end of 2025, which would have required Tesla to launch across several dozen of the largest metros within months. U.S. states generally have their own rules for AVs. Okay, Tesla didn't respond to a comment. Listed robotaxi related jobs. Okay, all right. Now this is interesting. This is very interesting. Fascinating chart by The Information. Listed robotaxi related jobs by Tesla. Look at all these locations. Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Las Vegas, Miami, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Phoenix, New York, Denver, and Chicago. If they actually have, if they got licensing in New York, that would be the game changer for Tesla. That is the hardest place to pull this off. And we've got public sightings already of these robotaxis in Orlando, Miami, Phoenix, San Francisco. Though the information here is dumping on Tesla a little bit, saying that they're slow walking some of their paperwork and that it's unlikely that they're actually going to be in 8 metros by the end of the year. Unlikely they're going to service half of the U.S. population by the end of 2025. But still, I mean, so far, I mean, even though things go on Elon time, it seems like they're trying to work a little further towards getting this robotaxi licensing in place. Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. I kind of appreciate a little bit of an update on that. So then, let's go see here. Does anybody? I feel like I didn't see any comments. I don't think people know where this is from, huh?
No.
This guy?
It's because that's why.
That guy on TikTok?
No.
I don't think it's funny. All right. So let's go see. Let's go see what else the information have. The information. OpenAI moves up the stack. Why? Every software incumbent is now a target. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, artificial intelligence actually makes it easier to generate new software. And so really, there's so many software moats that could be taken. There's talk about OpenAI going public next year, which is kind of wild. Am I going to have to look elsewhere? That's fine. All right. I mean, whatever. It's not a surprising argument anyway. But basically, every software company, has risks unless they're building on AI architecture. That they have some kind of proprietary IP that they could stay ahead in. That's actually I love that most finance bros and millennials and Gen Zs absolutely hate real estate. I love it because I love real estate, and I feel like it gives me this insane competitive advantage where most people aren't knowledgeable about real estate or construction or otherwise, and I think it's fantastic. So that's just my take. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe more people like real estate than I realize. But my take. All right, so let's go find more. Okay. AI leaders. We've got voluntary buyout. Wow, YouTube is offering voluntary buyouts. YouTube announced a voluntary exit program allowing U.S. employees to leave the company with a severance. Wow, look at that. More quiet layoffs, huh? Oh, wow. YouTube ads brought in substantially more money from last year, which is great. Wow. I wonder how many. I mean, it's just got to be, frankly, just what you're seeing with artificial intelligence, eh? But it's wild because, again, this is reminiscent of what you would just, like, what we saw in 2022, but the difference being 2022 had a very strong labor market where you could easily get a replacement job, right? So let's write that down in a document. So this is YouTube announces voluntary exit program despite YouTube ad revenues up. What were we up? We're like 15% year over year, something like that. Let's get my little calculator here. All right, let's see. We 12.9 divided by 10.7. That's subscription revenue. 20%. 20% increase, and a 20% increase in subscription revenues. Despite YouTube ad revenues up, these are up 10.3 divided by 8.9, 15.7%. Wow. Wow. So really reiterates the slow bleed. Economic slow bleed, not soft landing, not hard landing. Labor slow bleed will likely continue for years. I hate saying that because I put this in the Meet Kevin app, by the way. That's just where this ends up. But that's just the economy we're probably in, and it sucks. Because when you get that sort of economic slow bleed, it eventually just slows GDP and slows everything down. All right, let's go see what's news in crypto. All right, so let's see what we got. All right, let's go see here. Okay, so Core Scientific rejected merger with CoreWeave. That's fine. UFC endorsed Fight Token, raises $183 million. Jeez, man, all of these like individual token sales. I mean, this is like the perfect time to do it. It's so like reminiscent of the NFTs. Solana-based project. What do you think about the government shutdown, snap crisis? Well, I mean, yeah, usually you have a lot more flexibility from both parties. But, you know, in this case, it was actually a tool for the Trump administration to keep the shutdown going. So I think the Trump administration engineered this shutdown because I don't think the healthcare benefits, like they're going to end up rolling on the healthcare benefits, and Democrats know it, but then Republicans will try to take credit for it. But this was an opportunity for Trump to lay off people and let Mr. Vote do his job, right? Wow. All right. Fight Token. Fight. That's a great name. Social engineering scams, top crypto threats. Totally. Dude, like people are applying, just a heads up, this is maybe like just like a little warning for you. And I'm saying this, again, not like to be boring. It's just to sort of like throw this out there. If you ever have somebody that is like eager to work for you remotely, and then like the first thing they want is access to things like your main emails or your social accounts or whatever, you should be really cautious that you potentially hired a remote worker who's a scammer, gonna set up a crypto scam on your socials or whatever, right? So, especially people who reach out to you, you want to be cautious of that. But that's how it happens. That's how people get their accounts hacked. They end up hiring somebody that they think is not a scam. And, they're just setting up basically a Fugazi job application and lies of references or whatever to try to engineer their way into your company. It's pretty incredible. But I think really what's happening with crypto right now is you just have a lack of cash. You know, people don't have money to keep buying Bitcoin. And you're seeing that with MicroStrategy as well. Let's go see, and then, I mean, you've got so many new ETF launches that it's sort of like, all right, like old news now, right? Nobody cares anymore. Let's go, let's look at MicroStrategy. Let's see what they've been up to. We know their stock has been down quite a bit. So... Okay, so... Wow. B- credit score? I'll take Michael Saylor's cookies. What? And I'll reject the S&Ps. S&P Global. Strategy is a Bitcoin treasury company that uses proceeds from the issuance of debt and equity to accumulate Bitcoin. Yeah. The company's securities provide investors varying degrees of exposure to Bitcoin across its capital structure. The company has a relatively small software business that provides AI-powered enterprise analytics. We view Strategy's high Bitcoin concentration, narrow business focus, and weak risk-adjusted capitalization as a weakness that are only partially offset by the company's strong access to capital markets. But that goes away in a recessionary time, right? We issue a B- to Strategy. Wow. I bet they're not happy about that. I wonder what Saylor has said about that. S&P credit ratings. Let's see if there's like a chart. Oh, wow. B- is pretty junky. I'm trying to get this picture to load up here. I don't know why this isn't here. There we go. Okay. Come on, homie. How hard is this? Save image. Desktop. Credit ratings. Here we go. All right, look at this. These are credit ratings. B- is so freaking low from the S&P. I mean, you're not high grade, you're not upper medium, you're not lower grade, you're not non-investment grade speculative. You are in highly speculative. You are just outside of substantial risk. Wow. I wouldn't be surprised if MicroStrategy had something to say about that. Saylor, let's go with Saylor S&P rating. Oh, the cheering is the shilling is this is a huge milestone. Bitcoin treasury companies can now be evaluated like other corporate credit. That's hilarious. Of course. I mean, like, the positive spin here is hilarious. Hey, they just told us we're junk. Guys, this is great. We got a rating. Wow. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's all they're shilling. First ever rating of a Bitcoin treasury. Oh, people are just echoing Saylor's POV. Of course. Is this bullish or bearish? This is a junk bond rating, LOL. Nailed it. What does this rating compare to? A B- is speculative, highly vulnerable to adverse conditions and potential default risk. So it's junk. Go Grok. They meant to assign it the Bitcoin rating. Representing the new tier of 100% risk-free. Dude, if people seriously think Bitcoin is 100% risk-free, they've lost their absolute marbles. Like, you could be bullish Bitcoin but you can't be bullish retard. Okay. They can have fun staying standard and poor. Okay. So let's see here. Stable outlook reflects our expectation that Strategy will continue to prudently manage the maturities of its convertible debt. Right. It's got some big maturities coming up. We also expect the company will continue to finance its payments of convertible debt. All right. Let's see what else here. Okay. Public, investors access to its debt. Fine. Strategy creates a currency mismatch. The company has a long Bitcoin position short and a short dollar position. Debt maturities are all due in dollars. And Strategy holds mostly Bitcoin. The concentration in Bitcoin exposes them to potentially regulatory changes. Okay, we believe the company's negative total adjusted capital is a significant ratings constraint. Risk-adjusted capital was significantly negative, which drives our view of the company's capital earnings. Because we deduct Bitcoin assets from equity when we calculate adjusted common equity, the company has negative total assets. Right, but they're taking Bitcoin out, right? We believe Bitcoin has significant market risk that is uncorrelated to traditional markets. And because most of the company's assets are in Bitcoin, Bitcoin holdings are likely to grow more materially and we continue to view that as a weakness. Cash flow from operations was negative $37 million. Company's main source of earnings is appreciation in the value of Bitcoin. Its Bitcoin assets do not generate cash flows. Its software business is break even on earnings and an operating cash flow basis. We think that's unlikely to change in the foreseeable future. Company maintains strong access to capital markets, though that could change. Strategy stock market has is about $80 billion. Has about $15 billion convertible debt and preferred equity. However, the company will continue to rely on raising capital. We view this as a weakness, particularly since the company is reluctant to sell Bitcoin it holds as investments. In our view, this increases the likelihood that when the company does sell Bitcoin to generate cash as a last resort, it will likely have to do so at severely depressed prices. Yeah, like if they're upside down and then they have to pay their debts, they'll probably have to do it at very low prices. This is true. I mean, they're not wrong. We see some liquidity risk from dividends owed on the company's preferred dividends, $640 million per year. Much smaller on the convertibles, only $35 million per year on the convertibles. The company can confer dividends. It does not intend to defer dividends, right? And there are disincentives to deferring, of course. Preferred equity at Stripe and Strike. Over the next 12 months, we could lower the rating if, let's see, we expect the company to improve dollar liquidity strategy, reduces the use of its convertibles. No, that's not likely. Market deterioration of Bitcoin. All right. Well, there's your outlook on this. All right, let's jump in over here for a moment.
It's never going to be good enough, and within 24 hours, she changed her position and is open to raising taxes.
Congressman,
Boring. Freaking politicians.
Search numbers beat expectations?
Yeah, the search numbers beating expectations is very encouraging. So is the fact that the cloud services, Frank, were up 34%, and YouTube's doing well, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, basically, this is a multi-cylinder engine that is firing on all cylinders. I think what is intriguing, though, is where you started, because if you go back 5 months ago, we had a big controversy in the markets about what exactly was going on with the search business at Alphabet, at Google. And you'll remember Eddie Q, Senior Vice President at Apple, was testifying that on Safari, they were seeing Google search queries going down. That evening, just to remind everybody, that evening, Google came out with a press release saying, hey, we're seeing search queries going up, including on Safari. Now, that I have been unable to square those two facts, those two statements since then. And what we've had in addition since then are two earnings reports from Alphabet that clearly shows the search business is growing really quite well, and they've figured out how to use artificial intelligence, whether it's the AI overview, Gemini. They have many different ways that they are figuring out how.
Yeah, I mean, their Gemini move is, I think, probably the most brilliant part of this, because the Gemini move, as they point out here, is basically a public way of competing with OpenAI. And OpenAI now in talks for $1 trillion valuation. That's, you know, like, if people are going to look at Google and go, well, I mean, like, if I gave Gemini $1 trillion valuation, you know, that there's an opportunity over there to say that Google's actually cheap as a result of this, right? Yeah, so I think that's what you're getting here with some of the movement on Google. Which, take a look at this. Let's go see what's going on. We've got AMD only down 1.6, which isn't bad. We've got NVIDIA down 1.8. We're consolidating. We've got a little bit of a tick up on Netflix from where we were pre-market. Meta is slowly moving up. The Q's slowly moving up a little bit here. Tesla also slowly moving up. The last 20 minutes or so, got a little bit of a slow move up right here. It's not bad. Let's go see. Macy's is even positive. Wow, good for them. Okay. Let's go see what else we have. All right, so next up, Russia's Doomsday Missile. Yeah. Okay, and then there's this. We'll look at that in a little bit. Okay. What else do we have? We have AI skeptics, and we've got TPUs at Google. You know, I mean, they're doing just really well. I mean, Meta's doing really well too with their revenues. Obviously, their tax charge hit them hard. We saw the China news, so that's old. How are bonds doing today? Let's go find out. We've got the 10-year is up at 4.08. You know, my take was we were going to go to 4.05. And then I'm going to go to the 10-2. The 10-2 spreads at 48. Yeah, 48. Okay. 4.8 and 48. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then we've got crypto, 108 on BTC. Gold at 4,000. Oil still sitting in the low 60s over here. Okay. Let's see. Let's go see if the journal's got. How well does a robot pick an apple? Not very well. Fed is driving in the fog. Let's see what they say. Oh, how China enables Russia's military. That's interesting. And then let's see what they say about this. Here's the CZ talk. I love the editorial board here. The robot picked the apple. Arnold. Police make 5 new arrests in the Louvre. Oh, really? Let's go. Dude, I have really like fond memories of Paris. You might not know this about me, but I met Lauren in Paris in 2008. And the Louvre is something that I was really shocked to see, first of all, get raided, but also disappointed by. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, it seems like they're able to catch up with some of the enforcement here. But it's kind of crazy. I want you to see Jack. I took him out on scooters This was about 3 years ago now. And I'm gonna pull this up. So let's go see here. Take a look at this. Just a little sidebar. So first of all, here's Jack, and we rode the little scooters around. And then take a look at this. There we go. Went to the Louvre at night to go check it out. I mean, it's all, sealed off at night, but this is the Louvre. Let's see this pyramid structure right here. You can actually see right here. Kind of awesome. French police have made 5 new arrests in connection with the heist at the Louvre. Clear sign yet that thieves who stole France's crown jewels may have relied on a wider network. One of the men detained in a series of overnight raids across the Paris region is suspected of being part of the 4-man team who carried out the heist. Wow. The latest arrests mean 3 of the 4 alleged thieves are now in custody. A 34-year-old Algerian national stopped at Charles de Gaulle. How dumb, by the way, to try to leave from Charles de Gaulle. Another one was a Frenchman, 39 years old. Valued at $102 million. That's funny. Somebody asked me how much I thought the jewels were worth, and I said $100 million was my guess. Before I ever saw anything on it. French mobilizer driver. This is impressive. I hope they get them all. That's just such a hit to French pride. That's sad. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, so how China enables Russia's military. This is going to be really interesting because you've got this opinion ed from the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, and they really highlight this relationship between China and Russia that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. And so let's look at it together. The latest evidence comes in new reports on China's help for Russia's military. We already know this, right? China, again, like I've said, they want weakness of the U.S. to be distracted in fighting Russia because it just makes China appear stronger and the U.S. appear weaker. We know we are the strongest military, but the fact that we're not winning against Russia is an embarrassment to the U.S. At least that's the point of view that China is going to take, and they're going to weaponize that against us. China said that they don't provide lethal weapons to Moscow, but in non-public reports prepared by the State Department and European governments, we cast basically doubts, mostly because we can track supply chains of not only bullets, but also drones going to China, right? They don't seem to mention the bullets parts here, but there are plenty of other talks about lethal munitions going from China directly to Russia. But anyway, first-person point of view, drones going to Russia, we know that. Engineers can also have non-military uses, such as washing machines, pumps, or electric scooters, or for the engines for FPVs. But the report says the final recipient is a Moscow-based company identified by Ukrainian intelligence as a drone maker. Well, yeah. I mean, none of this is a surprise. And so reports just find this link over and over again. Ukraine has also identified Russian company Morgan LLC, which is not under U.S. sanctions, as a supplier of long-range drone components for their facilities. This isn't a surprise either. They have, a lot of their manufacturing facilities are located in ways that they can directly ship to Iran. So they could get pieces through Iran from China through rivers that just basically connect Russia and Iran. I mean, if you go over here, you could actually see Iran up here. We see, obviously, the Caspian Sea here. Here's Tehran, the capital. And we can follow rivers that go from the sea all the way deep into Russia. And they will manufacture their drone facilities deep inside of Russia, which, are decently far away from Ukraine. And they have all the supply chains they need to connect Russia to Iran and to China. So none of this is a surprise. In fact, I have a whole piece on this where I sort of broke down the drone facility, one of the drone facilities that you could see. You could see it here. Take a look at this. Here is an example where I sort of map out some of the distances of these. But here you have the Kama River, which is the upper portion of this, which provides access to the Caspian Sea. And you could see a lot of the, a lot of transport ships, even in the facilities. You've got leaked documents of these drone manufacturing plants being built in Russia, and how they're directly connected to Iran. These are Iranian drone facilities deep inside of Russia, and they're shipping directly to Iran, and then of course, in conjunction with China. So anyway, these drones are just examples, but they add the case for imposing secondary sanctions on China and Russia, but we're just not going to end up seeing that. Because with taco. Not a surprise. Always taco. All right, what do we got over here?
All great businesses are underpinned by the leadership in the organization living those values and really trying to compete to the best of their ability to deliver against those values.
So it used to be the case you had to be a man to rise up at Wall Street. Today, what percentage of your employees are not men?
Across the whole firm, I
Boring. It's just a shill for Goldman.
Because the last several years, the revenue deceleration that we've witnessed, which really has been absent from this company relative to its mega cap peers, what it needs most is it needs that revival from China. I think we're seeing the early signs of that.
20% of the iPhones made in China.
Yeah, right.
And that's 50% overall is iPhones for Apple. So 20% of that 50% is China. So that is a big deal.
Jim, you own this one. You're an Apple shareholder. Are you going to upgrade your phone? I mean, do you believe in this upgrade cycle? Do you think this is a real thing going into the holiday season?
Boring. Who cares?
Your financial destiny.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is a new era of investing. Welcome
Is there
to
really this
Abacus
little
Global
going on?
Management.
My name's Katie. I'm a spec.
I think what's happening is they're realizing that the school district had a lot of evidence that would have helped them in their case against the school district. And now they're deleting evidence. They're not turning over.
Boring.
When she took the stand, it was very difficult for the plaintiff's attorney to actually get her to verbalize what had happened to her. It was like her mind was reliving it. But she did talk about that on that day, that the teacher that was next door.
All right.
This very spectacular.
President Trump has ordered the Pentagon to begin testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 33 years, potentially reigniting a global arms race that had, at least until recently, seemed to have faded into history. He did not explain the goal of the new testing, instead arguing that it was simply a response to what other countries have been doing.
They seem to all be nuclear testing. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing, and we've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
America's last confirmed nuclear test was in 1992, and the last time China did it, as far as we know, was 1996. And while Russia has not tested a bomb in recent years, Vladimir Putin touted the successful test of a new nuclear-powered cruise missile earlier this month, while simultaneously threatening to revoke Russia's ratification of a global treaty banning nuclear tests. MSNBC senior White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is in South Korea.
Well, also, I want you to see the torpedo. You could see the images of it. They call it the Poseidon Doomsday Torpedo. Look at this. Poseidon, Russia's Doomsday nuclear torpedo. Underwater drone launched from the world's largest nuclear sub. 65-foot Doomsday. That's a 6-story nuke torpedo, which can be guided to a coastal target at 115 miles per hour with a 100 megaton warhead detonating, triggering a 1,600-foot tsunami of radioactive seawater. Okay, this is actually, I mean, that's the pitch on this document. Typically, tsunamis are going to be in the range of 40 to 60 feet. And then smaller tsunamis are going to be like your 20 to 40-foot waves. You have seen 1,000-foot tsunamis before, but I think the only time you've seen 1,000-foot tsunamis are when you have an asteroid that takes out all of the dinosaurs, or you have some crazy event, like I believe there are lake-based scenarios where you have massive mudslides that create these insane surges of water, but not very typical to see that large, so I think a little bit of that might be overblown, but still, you could see this escalating of hostilities here, and it's a sign of greater problems in negotiations.
North Korea has taken any such steps, and even just last week tested new missiles. Then this is a moment here for President Trump in this suggestion that they will move forward with nuclear testing capabilities back in the United States is at least a message to China, Russia, and North Korea that the U.S. is.
Oh, somebody says tested on Gaza. Bro, there's nothing left, man. There's nothing left. Gaza has just been so obliterated. It's sad. That's all you can say. It's just sad, you know. That doesn't make somebody anti or pro Gaza, Hamas, Israel. It's just a fact. It's just sad. That's the way to look at it.
Has not conducted a nuclear test.
Risk is risk, and when you take risk,
dude, that's all they're going to show today.
Money, or it's hard to make money, and we work hard to make sure we're prepared for that. And this period's no different than any other period. I've spent my entire career, and Goldman Sachs really, embedded this even deeper in me, thinking about that and worrying about that. And then, what defines organizations is how they respond when things are tough, not how they respond when things are easy.
That's true.
Well, it's an impressive career, one you probably didn't anticipate when you were in college, I guess.
I certainly didn't.
And
my parents certainly didn't. I wish, unfortunately, both my parents passed in their 70s before I got to this point. I really, especially my dad. I wish he could have seen all this.
You have a sibling, a sister?
I do. I've got two brothers.
And do they say, how about letting us go to work at Goldman? Or?
Boring. Gosh, man. I can't believe this is what Bloomberg's running today. Lame. All right, let's go see what else we have. So, let's see. How does a robot pick an apple? Yeah, not well. All right, let's see what we got here. Ah, look, robotic arms coming off of an apple picker here. Harvest time. Americans aren't eager to do arduous farm work. Duh. Apple growers want robotic harvesters. Some robotic companies have shut down or sold their innovations when they ran out of funding. Several American, European, or Israeli companies or universities have tested various ideas like cameras and suction cups, arms to pluck a vacuum, or either pluck or vacuum apples. But robotic harvesters remain slower than human workers and make more errors. Man, and these are purpose-built robots, and they still can't figure it out. The best models pick more slowly than people and have trouble dropping apples into the bins without bruising them. Oh, wow. They struggle to clip the stems, which can become a problem when they harden, stabbing other apples. Oh. Another complication is that to accommodate robotic pickers, many farmers would need to plant new orchards on trellises rather than rows. Wow. Takes time and money. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. A little interesting ad there. Okay. All right, what else is going on in the market? So, Q's, no. Fiserv keeps selling off. That's wild. Meta's still recovering. Nice recovery here. We sent a buy the dip alert out this morning at the lows. 108 on BTCs. A lot of people this morning in the Course Member Live. First of all, thank you to all those people who joined over the last few days. But a lot of people this morning on the Course Member Live were leaving comments like, "Oh, I just paid for my course," or this, that, or whatever. That's cool. Because of the strategy we talked about this morning. Okay, let's go see what else we have. The information. $350 Trump backs iron-based startup. Oh? Where? What's this one called? California-based Mitra Chem, a 4-year-old startup that develops lithium iron-based batteries. Mitra Chem. Building America's critical mineral champion. Okay. U.S. Department selects $100 million award. Oh, well, good for them. Huh. All right. Funding, sketchy details, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. YouTube announces buyout. Cost growth, Microsoft revenue flat. China fast tracks tech IPOs. We saw that yesterday. All right, let's go to, I don't know, let's go to like Wired. New startup wants to edit human embryos. Oh, great. Oh, by the way, did you see that TechCrunch article where they bagged on the browser, the OpenAI browser, and said it was really vulnerable, like 50 times more vulnerable than Google Chrome for like phishing or prompt injections? That I thought was really interesting because I actually liked using the OpenAI browser on a computer that I was using during travel, so I don't regularly use it. But now I'm gonna like probably not use them for a while at least until they stabilize, just because of the security concerns. Like Google Chrome's pretty good, and so, you know, I believe actually Microsoft Edge is slightly better than Google Chrome, but they're both pretty good. Google to bring shuttered nuclear plant back from the dead. Well, that's great. No way, dude. Look at this. Former L3 Harris boss pleads guilty to selling zero-day exploits to Russian broker. Wow. They would buy cybersecurity tools. No way. What a douche. Oh, wow. 39-year-old Australian citizen sold exploits to an unnamed Russian broker who promised millions of dollars in cryptocurrency in exchange. Yep. Broker publicly bills itself as a reseller of exploits to many customers. Wow. 35 million of losses. That's crazy. Pled guilty to 2 charges of stealing trade secrets, which carry a maximum 10-year prison sentence. Will be sentenced in January 26. Wow. I didn't say Edge is a better browser. I said it has technically a better security reputation than Chrome. But let's go look at it. So it was the TechCrunch AI browsers. We'll talk about it, and then, you know, it'll get better over time. But we'll look at that in just a moment, and then you can see what I'm talking about. So somebody's asking about Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat's beyond done, but. Yeah, I mean, look at that. All the volume's gone. Opendoor should be... I still think Opendoor is going to go down to $4 to $5 soon. Okay, yeah, it's at 726. It's making its way back down. Yeah, not a surprise at all. Okay. What else? Ethereum, 3,800. Oh, right at the line on Ethereum. I like the Brave browser. Yeah, that's a good one too. But I like Google extensions. You just have to be careful because that's how, you know, you get some of the bugs in. AI agents are terrible freelance workers. Donald Trump is the first AI slop president. What is this madness? All right, let's go to the Times here. The art of letting Trump claim a win while walking away stronger. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with Russia. Look at Chegg for meme potential. Dude, fundamentally, they went to crap. Like, this is a... what are they now? $112 million story? Oh, the fundamentals of this suck. But who knows? You know, maybe they can revise some of their AI courseware provided product. But I mean, they got smoked. We can look at them in just a moment as well. I have their earnings call. I already looked at their earnings call, so I can pull it up. It has money it can't spend to stop food stamp program. Let's see. How much Obamacare prices are rising across the country. Hurricane Melissa. Andrew Cuomo scrapping and scrambling. All right. We'll look at that in just a moment. Let's go see what else. So the Wall Street Journal, let's go Financial Times. Let's also get Economist up. America and China have only holstered their weapons. Yeah. Javier Milei, renovations. Okay, fine. Let's see what the Economist has to say here, too. 1 year truce. The bond sale, we talked about that. Meta bond sale. How a flashy Utah-based leasing firm lent billions to First Brands. Oh, now that could be interesting, too. Because that's the, like... The question is, like, how many of these firms are all exposed, right? And then I also wonder why this CoreWeave merger collapsed. I'm going to get some coffee and I'll be right back.
What President Trump was going to do when it comes to trying to pressure China to stop its imports of Russian energy supplies. We've seen President Trump, for example, put so-called secondary tariffs on India, which is a large importer, but not as large of an importer as China is. But those tariffs have remained off the table for now. He said that the pair did discuss ending the war in Ukraine, but no sign that China is going to stop those imports anytime soon. About 20% of China's net imports of crude oil do come from the Russian market. So, of course, this is a large piece of the puzzle when we are talking about any sort of future peace in the region between Russia and Ukraine.
All right, good stuff. Thank you so much, Tyler Kendall, Bloomberg Washington correspondent, joining us from South Korea. And I think, Tyler, you can come home now after this because the president is on his way back as well. So we thank Tyler for her coverage all week long. All right, let's continue our discussions here on the U.S.-China trade summit and summit overall between Presidents Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. And bring in Jenny Welch. She is the chief geoeconomics analyst for Bloomberg Economics. And we should mention that Jenny previously served as the director for China and Taiwan on the U.S. National Security Council under both the Biden and Trump administrations. Jenny was the advisor to Vice Presidents Harris and Pence on Asia and the Pacific as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Jenny. From your perspective, did we move the ball down the field at all here on U.S.-China relations with this long-awaited summit?
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm not sure if we moved the ball down the field or we moved it back towards the other end of the field when the Trump administration came back into power earlier this year. We saw tariff rates go down. We saw a suspension of many of the measures that both countries had announced in recent months, but we didn't ultimately solve any of the major structural frictions between these two countries. And I think there are still a lot of questions remaining, not only about what did they agree to today, but will any of what they did discuss last?
Absolutely. And my understanding is they are going to hold the next meeting, the two presidents, with President Trump saying that he would visit China in April and Xi Jinping would visit the U.S. afterwards. In the meantime, what needs to be sorted out between the two sides, at a lower level in terms of getting some details out? What would you be watching for?
Well, President Xi in particular indicated that there's still some work for the negotiating teams to iron out details on, whether that pertains to the exact schedule, for example, for when tariffs will come down, or it pertains to, for example, other issues like fentanyl that are supposedly the precursor for those tariffs coming down. I think another key question is going to be, to what extent did what they agreed to today only pertain to the specific export control actions that they discussed, or does it apply to other actions going forward? And I mention that because already twice this year, we've seen tensions reheat when, for example, China felt the U.S. broke the truce by taking export control actions beyond what had been previously discussed. And that could lead to a reheading of tensions down the line if both sides have a disagreement on what exactly they agreed to and how much that constrains their actions in other areas.
Do you expect more of that to come up, that reheating of tensions where each side is going to push the envelope a little bit to see how much they can kind of push the other side?
Absolutely. I think in particular.
All right. Yes, more reheating of tensions, each side push each side. Yeah, I'm not very optimistic about El Trado deal there. But, okay. Something else I want to do is I want to look at MK's reaction to the Neobot. So, and we can look at Asmongold's reaction to it as well. So, let's go pop this up. Okay, let's close this puppy. Oh boy. There we go. All right. So what we have here. Yesterday, we saw the introduction of the Neo robot, which is not autonomous at all. It's teleoperated, likely by some foreigner who essentially remote controls a robot in your home to do things, at the moment, really poorly, without any autonomous features or artificial intelligence. And what you're really doing is you're putting an investment into the company by pre-ordering this robot without actually getting any upside of equity in the company. So you're basically giving the money to this company under the guise that one day you will get a robot that can do things for you in your home, which is really provocative. We all want this. Now, this company has done a really incredible move in that they've basically gone viral. Even though the robot sucks, they've gone viral over it because of both A, criticism, and B, praise. People are very excited. And then, of course, you have people that are like, oh, well, some people are just mad because it's not the Tesla Optimus or this, that, or whatever. We are so many years away from these things actually being functional, especially with what we saw with the dishwasher loading. But today, we're going to react to Marques and Asmongold reacting to this robot. So we'll jump through this together. Let's see what they have to say about this disastrous robot.
I feel like it's been
yes, it would actually be useful if we had audio. So we'll go ahead and punch that on.
Minutes since I've done just like an old school strike.
All right,
and it lives in your house. It's finally here. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's for doing chores. It's a housekeeper. It has the same dexterity as a human because it's shaped just like a human. Walks around on two legs.
It doesn't actually have the same dexterity or capabilities as a human. I mean, if you look at what we saw with the Wall Street Journal interview by Joanna, the Neo robot can't really grab things like a human or do things like a human could. For example, if we look at, I think the best example is just this right here, dropping the second cup in here, and then the miserable attempt to close the dishwasher. Now, it's great. It's optimistic. Hey, like, we're getting somewhere. We're trying to make progress, right? But really, to me, what this is a company that bolted together tendon actuators that you could, buy off the shelf and dress this up into a soft-looking robot. And now they're using it as a fundraising tool. There was even a moment where they show this trying to wipe the table or crack a walnut, and it just doesn't have the capabilities of doing the things that humans do right now. So this doesn't actually have the dexterity of a human, and I would expect that Marques would say that, but he hasn't yet. So
fingers, it can fold laundry and put it away for you, or it can do the dishes for you from start to finish. And
this is all like, I think he's just getting into like the pitchy part of like the vision of what it could do for you. Self-charge enabled. Come on, dude.
Imagine going out for the day of work and coming back a few hours later.
Okay, this is all the vision of what we already know about the vision.
Flat $20,000 to own it outright and get priority delivery. Just drop a $200 fully refundable deposit to get in line today, and deliveries in the US.
This company is going to get so much money just in pre-orders, and none of those people are going to get the benefit of upside and equity in the company, even though that's basically what they're doing. This company, it's almost like a fake it till you make it strategy, and it's kind of brilliant for the company.
This is for people who the idea of spend.
Oh my gosh, Marques, stop marketing the damn thing. Just get to the damn point, would you? Jeez, Lord. Okay, we saw this. Oh, here's the walnut part, I think.
Next probably. You don't think they would show her the best stuff that this could do autonomously to keep selling the dream? If you
Yes, thank you, Marques. Finally, dude, it took us 4 minutes to get to the full point, and I think Marques does that really well. Like, he doesn't want to be so offensive to these companies because he does get a lot of sponsorships from the companies as well, and product demos and invitations to events. So he kind of has to start by being nice. I get it, but. Finally, 4 minutes in, don't you think the company would show the best that they have now? Yes, you do think that. Did they? No. They showed Joanna 0 autonomous features.
Watch that keynote video back. To their credit, you'll notice that they actually are very careful to label exactly when the robot is doing something autonomously and not teleoperated. And in that whole nearly 10 minutes...
Right, but it's edited, so it doesn't matter. Edited videos don't matter. You want to see actual production.
This product can actually do today, and what it can maybe hopefully do someday in the ideal future it is massive. They're massively far apart. And so that's really my main issue. There seems to be a bit of a lost art in waiting for a tech product to be actually finished before announcing and unveiling it. Like, do you remember when tech...
Right, correct. Like, that's exactly what's happening here. There's a race to announce your successes in these robotics to get fundraising, because this company has the most attention ever. Like, I would argue that the fundraising that they've done is the greatest fundraising that they've ever been able to do. If we go to trends.google.com, let's just try it. Let's just Google Neo Robot and let's see what we got here. So if I go to the past 90 days, for example, yeah, I mean, this is not even going to be comparable, but let's compare it to Tesla Optimus, okay? Oh my gosh. Dude, look at that. Searches for Tesla Optimus relative to Neo Robot. Let's go to like past 5 years because we might get more Optimus. Look at that. The highest you had on the Optimus was over here at like, what, the 30th percentile, 35 percentile? The Neo Robot is so like 3x that search result. Let's get a little bit more granular, maybe the last year here. No, I mean, it's just not even close. Let's just look at Tesla in general versus Neo Robot. Okay, all right, so Tesla in general as a term beats. What about NVIDIA? I'm just trying to find something to compare it to. No, that beats as well. Okay, let's try Bloomberg. You know, how many people are typing Bloomberg News in? Look at that. It almost has as many searches on Google Trends you know, in this last week period right there, which is going to be concentrated into a day, right? But anyway, as the search term Bloomberg. I mean, this is insane advertising that they pulled off here.
The companies would unveil a brand new tech product. Right. So they'll Rabbit R1, for example.
Oh yeah, that was a disaster.
For this robot to be everything people want it to be, they need to develop a super smart AI system that looks through the robots.
Well, remember what Brett Whitten said, which is very interesting. I actually think, I respect Brett Whitten. I think some of his bullishness is too bullish and misplaced. but understand he's a very smart individual. He's very, very bullish on Tesla robotaxi and robotics. He argues that to ramp humanoid robots, it's going to be 1,000 to 10,000 times more difficult than robotaxi, which implies we won't actually see a ramp up of robotics until 2030 to 2032. I actually think it'll take even longer than this. But beyond this, he also argues, I believe it's here. Yeah, here it is. He argues that the first estimate is that Tesla will need to spend 100 to 200 billion on AI compute to solve the robotics problem. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Sensors and is able to learn its environment and recognize everything it's looking at and teach itself to navigate that environment.
This is an example here of not human dexterity. This was a joke.
And perform tasks. It has to learn what a laundry room is and what the laundry looks like. And
right, we know.
And like, what if one of the tasks is going and getting the right medication for an elderly person and bringing it to them? That it has to get that right. Like, it needs to identify the correct medication at the right time and the right intervals and bring it to...
It's decades for that. Maybe not decades, maybe 5 to 10 years.
Early adopters. So people who press that order now button first and who actually...
They're going to get scammed. This is like Nikola. This is like pre-ordering your truck that rolls down a hill.
I guess get one of these when they start to ship them. We'll get a robot that can probably do a few simple things autonomously, like opening doors, but there will be many things it can't do. And for that, if you scroll down on their website, you can see there's expert mode, which is when you have something the robot can't yet do, and you schedule one of their teleoperating employees to look through the sensors into your home and do the task so that the robot can learn from it. And this is something that they've...
So that the robot can learn from it, it's this idea that they're going to be able to collect so much data from this teleoperating inside of your home. It's going to be such diverse data. There is some provocativeness to that. There is some excitement around the amount of diversity of data that they're going to get through being able to teleoperate. To some extent, this is what Amazon is doing with their delivery drivers. They want to equip their delivery drivers with glasses so that they can record what their drivers are doing and then eventually replace them with robots. So, the people are basically replacing their or training their replacements. But supposedly they can also get like recommendations on how to Tetris together the products better. But look at this. These are, for example, the Meta sporty glasses or whatever. Apparently they've got like 5 microphones on the side that will enable video recording while you're going 30 miles an hour, up to 30 miles an hour. Maybe I should give this a try later? I could go on a go-kart and maybe I can make a video with these and we could see if it works. We could try it. But anyway, like, I'm a big fan of technology. Like, I think when people hear me poop on like these robots, what do I hear? There's music playing. Anyway, so yeah, so very cool. But Amazon is equipping these people with these so they can get the data and learn. So there is some value to this.
Pretty directly said that they expect early adopters to be totally cool with. Like, go watch Joanna's video. I'll link it below the like button.
Joanna did a great video.
Healing and promising that this could maybe be a post-smartphone.
I don't even want to talk about
viewable
that.
cameras and microphones into your house. And it could also fall over. And have
well, keep in mind, this whole like privacy thing too is kind of funny because most people have like Siri, a Fire TV, Alexa, Google, whatever. I probably just activated a lot of those. I apologize. But a lot of people have these in their homes. Like, they're already listening to all of our stuff. Adding the camera, are we really adding at this point that much? So,
Neo, the home robot, order today. Here we go. Let's...
All right, we already saw this.
Away from being able to have sex with these things. I mean, honestly, we're probably
this is like the very first thing I would expect Asmongold to say, because I don't know this, but I think his demographic is a lot younger than mine. I would argue that his demographic is probably 13 to 24, and the majority of my demographic is actually 35 to 45. My next largest demographic is actually 45 to 55. And then I get the 24 to 35 crew. So like, my audience is significantly older, and so like it's not a surprise to me that for his audience, this is the first thing that he goes to.
Years past, some people
they have like you could just
people having sex with these things.
You know, books and about like how we used to have slavery and then we got rid of it, and you're thinking like, oh my God, like I've got to mow the lawn. Why can't?
Yeah. Okay. So this idea of like this being like a slave or whatever for you. I mean, yeah, that's why it's kind of an exciting idea. Like everybody wants a legal slave, right? And that's basically what these robotics are. So if I go to DJI robots, so let's go to, I think it's DJI has one. No, it's Segway. Segway lawnmower robot. So if you go look at this is the Segway robotic lawnmower. I don't have a lawn that I can really try this on, but apparently, I mean, this would be very interesting because here you have AI-assisted mapping and vision fence image obstacle avoidance, app-controlled and multi-zone management. So you already have a robot that can go mow your lawn for you. This is like Roomba, except for lawn mowing, right? So very interesting. All right, let's keep going with Asmongold's take here on this.
We just have somebody do this. Oh my!
If I family had time or data would help humanity explore the galaxy.
Right.
And I really
this is bullcrap. I don't care about this.
For safety. Its tendon-driven body is quiet and lightweight.
Okay.
Its low-energy motions make
battery life.
Okay, we saw the details of it. I want his opinion on
the
it.
house. What's your name?
Harry.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so this is all right. It's in the box. It's the egg. Okay.
Hey, I'm Neo. I'm here to help around the house. What's your name?
Harry.
This like I don't understand this like shock on Asmongold's face. Like, bro, it's not that shocking. Like, have you turned on GPT's voice mode? That's all you need, and then you have the same thing, just put into now a teleoperated body. You know, somebody else going, oh, like, come on, man. We can go start a robotic company too. Go buy these actuators off the shelf, slap some clothing on it, or what a lot of companies do is they 3D print the shells to make them look more approachable, because otherwise it's just like metal framing and spider framing. It doesn't look that good, right? And then slap like Grok in it and you're good. Like, it's not that hard to have an unfunctional humanoid robot right now. It's not that shocking.
Nice to meet you, Harry. When you have a question or want something done, just let me know.
You schedule a time that you want your Neo or using the app. The way it works is you schedule. If there are any chores,
I can't even believe this. I can't. There's no way this shit's actually gonna work. Holy
duh!
Shit! They're cheaper than slaves. Oh my god!
Oh, he uses Grok to do his math to compare them to be cheaper than slaves. Figures come from auction records, so adjusted for inflation, a slave that would have cost you $1,200 in the 1850s would have equated to $45,000 today. Haha, jeez, man. Well, I mean, that's why I got 7 kids. You know, for $10, you know how much a child would do?
Do you remember what I was saying before?
Expert mode to have an expert from 1X supervise the session and provide corrective intervention to help Neo complete any task.
I see. That's smart.
Yeah, it's the same thing that Amazon did with the Indians in the Amazon call centers. This is not, it's not, like, AI should just stand for actually Indian.
So, what if you know what? Never mind. Do anybody actually think that in 50 years we're not going to have this?
Oh, we will. I actually agree with that. Like, in 50 years, yes. We will absolutely have robots. I don't know if they will actually look like humanoids. I'm not convinced that a humanoid is necessary for a household robot. Like, I think you can have a robot that's very specifically designed for very specific tasks that don't necessarily require a humanoid form. Like, I actually think that if I were a household robot, I would kind of prefer to have more arms, right? So, like, give me 4 arms. I could do more in the kitchen. I can cook more at the same time. So, like a an arachnid style humanoid would actually, in my opinion, be a lot more functional. I'm okay with the 2 legs. I might go for a 3rd leg. I think a 3rd leg could be useful for the weight that you could support. I understand why they're doing humanoids now, because it's basically a crutch, because you could control them with a human body. That's why we're using these humanoid form factors, because it's a crutch to train these things faster.
It's clearly coming. Everybody knows this is coming.
Okay, come on, get to a point, Az.
Make it charged in the closet. Yeah, because without it being controlled by, like, a man in the closet, right?
India.
I want to see it happen.
Right, because this is just a marketing video. He's right to be
Suggest what to
skeptical on
cook based on what you have in the fridge. Remember your progress while teaching you a new language. And even give you talking to Neo.
Most of that is just verbal AI that you could get out of any chatbot today.
To decide if it should respond or not.
Just gotta.
Yeah. No, for sure. Okay.
Can you make?
You know, the irony about this whole, like, get the door thing is we have, like, automated locks now that we could use. So if you're like, get the door, you could also just press, like, unlock door, or frankly, I mean, it would not be very hard to automate the opening of your door either. And it would cost you way less than 20 grand. If that's all you wanted to do was go open the door.
Hey, Neil, can you take this cup to the sink for me?
And breaking it down into simple steps, such as walking to the person, grabbing the cup, and then walking the cup to the kitchen, and then putting it away. Neo's autonomy improves with diverse data and real-world.
This is what's so provocative about this, is like, that does seem awesome. Like, I want that. Like, hey, go take this trash out for me, right? Hey, $500 a month if you can, have a robot slave that's controlled by somebody in India. Maybe.
As Neo does more chores, you'll receive updates to your Redwood model that increase the complexity
of somebody in the chat's like, I'm buying 2.
Tasks that Neo can handle, such as finding your keys and wallet, or doing
Finding keys and wallet is like this age-old issue of us as humans just not putting our stuff back where we should be putting it back.
Full laundry cycle end to end.
See, that's what I need him to do for me. Because
find your lost shit. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Get today will only get better.
Okay.
And as we keep shipping features, it'll be more and more useful in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Now,
except the problem is, what usually happens is, as you ship more features, you end up exploding the hardware and the software that you have built into the machine, and then there becomes a limit to how much you can do software updates to it. So then you end up having to, like, buy a new machine, and so your $20,000 investment, I don't know if it actually ends up going to, like, the version 2 of the version of the robot. That's the scariest part, is that you get, and, like, I don't know that you want to be like a phase 1 buyer of this kind of product, because it's just going to suck so badly. I mean, understand what happened with the Joanna Stern interview. In their demo, the thing ended up having to get cooled because it overheated by somebody standing there holding a fan at it. And then when she Macarena,
Neo had to go to urgent care. See you, Neo.
They had to crane it out because she, got it all tied up in a little bit of a dither. So, like, they don't have the cooling technology yet. Like, these V1 hardware versions are basically a scam. It's really smooth and sexy marketing, but it's basically a scam.
Journey there is not going to be perfect. But this
one of those.
I think you missed.
Okay, so if it can throw, it can kill.
Spot over here.
I wonder if these can turn red.
Terminator style, yeah.
But where you were at, it was illegal. But you're having sex with the robot.
Oh my gosh, we're back to that. Dude, who listens to this? Come on, man. Where's the good feedback?
And a smart brain. What factory robot?
Bert, why am I wearing a sweater?
Think of what
it's
that walnut was embarrassing.
Water? If only the real world didn't have doors.
Don't cut it. Don't cut. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, no, of course. You can't see the whole thing happening because if they didn't cut it, remember it took 5 minutes for it to put a fork and 2 drinkware items in the dishwasher, 2 glasses, right? 5 minutes.
This doesn't count. You're cheating. It's a guy that's controlling. This isn't an autonomous robot. This is a guy controlling a robot.
Yes.
This is bullshit.
Neo a little.
Yes. Finally. That's what I said from the first minute. Finally.
Over a minute to fetch a water from the fridge 10 feet away. Thank you, Neo. Next challenge. Load 3 items in the dishwasher.
Here we go.
This is it's a guy doing this.
The reaction of that glass falling over is like classic.
It's just a guy. It's literally fucking. This is literally Wizard of Oz shit.
Yes, it is. Behind the curtain.
You fucking retard. You fucking.
Yeah, dude. That's what I called it yesterday. In the first 30 seconds of my video, I'm like, this is retarded.
Retard, bro. Are you kidding me? Oh.
Thank you.
And that took 5 minutes. The Neo I saw isn't the one shipping.
That's really good because if you don't have to do anything, that's great.
26.
No,
the new model
no, it's really bad.
Will be safer and have better hand dexterity.
Uh-huh.
The one I saw still needed to take breaks to charge.
Because remember, it's more than. Oh, that's really good. It put 3 pieces of dishware away in 5 minutes. That's really bad, first of all. It's now you have to deal with the overheating, the headache of it, the complexities of it, the money that you spent on it, the $500 a month, which is like a car payment that you're paying for it, the charging it, the cooling it, the upgrade issues, the hardware issues, the breakdowns. This is like the scheduling the task. Oh, I'm going to go in the app and go, yes, please put these 3 dishes away. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, there's the fan.
Help. Right.
Uh-huh.
The one.
Great.
It's also its brain on its own, without human.
All right, come on.
Is essentially when there is a human in the loop.
And who is the
human in the loop
voice I'm hearing
scam
right now of Neo?
Hi, I am a remote operator in a different room in the building.
And what's your?
Yes.
My
Asmongold is not happy. Good.
Trump facing. Operated like this in the first place, or real world?
I was on the moon. Yeah. Now I'm like an asteroid about to hit the fucking dinosaurs again. I'm about to crash.
Yeah.
I'm gonna crash the fuck out, bro. Like
this is a scam.
This is my day is like I actually thought like, bro, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's literally just Kyle. It's just Kyle controlling the robot, and it still doesn't work.
The videos of the robot doing things via teleoperation become the training data to make the AI model smarter. That's why 1X is putting.
It's just going to take so many hours. They're just not going to have enough users buying this stuff to actually pull that off for a very long period of time. And they don't have the capital, but they are raising a lot of money. They did a great marketing piece here. It's just a scam. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years this company's bankrupt.
To take.
How do they not ask about having sex with the robot?
Oh, gosh. Oh, is that like the 4th time I've heard him say it? Damn it. How do you get lullabied for 20 minutes in your video, and then you realize it's a retarded scam, yet even after you realize it's a retarded scam, you go right back to, so when do we have sex with it?
The president is cutting tariffs on China by 10% immediately, 57 to 47%, with a nod to China's attempt to apparently interfere with the fentanyl trade, though we haven't seen details on that. The new threat of an additional 100% tariff is now off the table in exchange for access to rare earth minerals. Soybeans will be sold. This might be the most specific takeaway that we have. 12 million tons of soy for this year, 25 million a year going through 2028, according to Brooke Rollins, the Ag Secretary. And the president is going to go to China in April, is at least the plan for now. That remains a long way off. But we have huge questions about so many things from NVIDIA. Remember yesterday we were talking about selling Blackwells in Beijing. No agreement there. President says Taiwan did not come up. And nothing was hammered out on TikTok, generating the headline on the terminal. Trump-Xi truce buys time as both seek leverage in broader fight. Or as Terry Haynes at Pangea Policy put it in his note to clients, you'll get a truce and you'll like it. Let's go to South Korea for more. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall's been there all week for the negotiations with Seoul and now Beijing, and joins us with a live update. Tyler, what else do we know?
Hey, Joe, well, you really set this up perfectly. We are seeing this easing in tensions, but at the end of the day, the root causes that led to this standoff between the U.S. and China really haven't been resolved, particularly around national security, the greater issue of unbalanced trade, and of course, as both countries are jockeying for dominance when it comes to the tech sector. Now, you laid out some of the deliverables that we did get this meeting. We should keep in mind that there's actually a broad array of tariffs on China imposed by the U.S. Some are from a Section 301 investigation into unfair trade practices. Others are Section 232 tariffs enacted on sector in specific. But then some are related to fentanyl. That 20% tariff related to fentanyl now being cut in half. But as you mentioned, we are going off of a pledge President Trump said that he got from Chinese President Xi Jinping to curb what's known as those precursor chemicals that go into the drug. And then lastly, there's that so-called reciprocal tariff rate that's been on China. It had the threat to be ratcheted up. Now it is going to be extended at 10% for at least a year. So that's how we get that aggregate 47% effective U.S. tariff rate currently in place. But then some of those other deliverables that we got really just feel like we are getting a pullback in recent escalation from just the past few weeks, right? China now committing to soybeans, purchasing 12 million tons through the end of this year, 25 million tons for the next 3 years. Worth mentioning that 25 million ton number is in line with what U.S. farmers would be expecting to export during that time. So that is welcome news, of course, for American farmers. But those other provisions, threats from the U.S. to impose fees on Chinese ships docked at American ports, for example, that has also come off the table. So, Joe, I think that you framed it really well. This is an easing of tensions. It is welcome. But at the end of the day, it feels like we are mainly pulling back on the escalation from really just the past few weeks alone.
Fascinating. Tyler, there was talk of a energy deal in Alaska that China would be buying oil and gas. The president says Chris Wright, Doug Burgum, and our respective energy teams, according to his Truth Social post, will be meeting to see if such an energy deal can be worked out. So nothing is on paper yet, right?
Nope, not yet. And the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, was on Bloomberg Television this morning, did confirm that he has a trip coming up. He said it actually might happen sooner than previously expected, but we did not get any more details here. Of course, as you well know, the administration has been pushing to streamline and deregulate when it comes to permitting and drilling in Alaska to get more American barrels overseas. So it's something we're going to be watching closely because President Trump, up to this point, hasn't taken punitive action against China when it comes to their imports of Russian energy supplies with, say, a so-called secondary tariff like we've seen implemented against India. And China is the top importer of Russian energy crude. In fact, Russian barrels make up about 20% of China's import of crude in general. So a huge market for them as this really has been a central component to helping the Kremlin fund the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, great stuff. Tyler, we're so lucky to have you there. Tyler Kendall still in South Korea for the aftermath of the APEC summit and President Trump's meeting with President Xi. We'll have more from Tyler as we make our way through the day here and the president makes his return to the U.S. Clutch analysis from the former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. He talked to David Weston just a short time ago following the meeting. Here's what he said.
I think the most important thing is what...
Somebody says, Kevin, you should start your own robot company. Yeah, RoboHack. Email. If you have any robotic skills and you're bored, email me. Kevin@meetkevin.com. Be like, I got robot skills.
Very unfortunate and destabilizing outcomes. And that's the good news, and I think it genuinely is good news.
Glass half full. Let's see what Mary Lovely is pouring, senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. We had to talk to Mary knowing the importance of this meeting, and it's great to have you back with us, Mary, on Bloomberg TV and radio. We can say a lot about what was not accomplished or what didn't happen. Yes, we don't have an international crisis this morning, but we don't have a lot of details either. How are you reading this meeting?
Well, and it's a little bit sense of Back to the Future. A lot of this conflict was stirred up by President Trump in attempts to gain some leverage. China showed a very strong weapon in its rare earths exports, and I think the U.S. blinked. So
Yeah,
I think that
I agree with this lady.
The former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers is right. We don't have an escalation, but I think the reason that we don't have an escalation is because that the U.S. realized that it was not in a good position. I think we're seeing an asymmetric, response to this, which is that China is doing everything it can to reduce its dependence on the United States. It has been for some time, and the U.S. is focused on short-term deals. And I think that asymmetry.
That's the issue, that short-termism.
Well, moving forward.
Wow. All right. Well, there's your headline from Mary Lovely. The U.S. blinked. You said a couple of things there as well. Back to the Future is not the first time I've heard that line, and I was trying one out earlier. Mary, is this not the proverbial putting on a really tight pair of shoes and celebrating how good it feels to take them off?
Yeah, I think that is apt. I think that we are happy that the shoes are off. There is no doubt about that. 100% tariffs on China simply would do nothing good, only bad things for the U.S. economy. That doesn't mean that China would be spared either. They are being hurt by this, but they're in a very different situation, different political system. I think the Chinese feel very good about where they are, about the use of the rare earths. I think right now we've sort of seen the big weapons put back in the holsters, but as your correspondent has noted and others have noted, this is really by no means a settling of the really big issues that are out there. And those issues, I might add, have really changed since Trump won, since the issues that were dealt with in the original Section 301 report that was the basis for the trade war that started back in 2017. Today, we're looking at very, very difficult issues on really decoupling for national security purposes, and doing that in a way that really minimizes the negative effect on the U.S. economy and on the economy of our alliances. So there is some really serious, difficult issues ahead. I think soybeans are important to farmers, but for China, this is just another chit that it can turn on and turn off.
Okay, well, so that's my question. You mentioned 2017. We've got a deal here to buy at least 12 million tons of soybeans rest of the year, then 25 million a year through 2028. Does history show us that China will actually do this?
I think it depends on U.S. activity. President Trump has shown a penchant for, suddenly one day something upsets him and he's got 100%, 140% tariff on China. If he does so, he knows that 25 million bushels of soybeans are at play. So in this sense, that gives another tool to China.
Do we believe that Taiwan, quote, never came up, unquote, as President Trump said?
I believe it, actually.
It's highly possible, I think.
Yeah, well, mostly because these things are already prearranged, Xi Jinping doesn't want to sit down with Trump and, get bullied or whatever. So they have very structured elements of what they're able to talk about. What was the Wall Street Journal's take? I forgot to look at it on the Fed. Let me see here. Oh, where did we save it? Yeah, because they had a piece on the Fed. Let me find it here. Wall Street Journal, Federal, oh, here it is, got it. Editorial board. What the FOMC giveth, they also taketh away. No sooner did we hand a quarter-point rate cut that we ended up getting mixed signals about not getting a cut in December. Confused, so is the Federal Reserve. Okay. Mr. Schmidt wasn't alone. Okay, the Fed will continue to shrink. Powell admitted he's in a tough position. Must pick one to focus on. Fed confusion means it's time for Trump to put the Fed out of its misery by announcing a Powell successor. Ha, that's interesting. Oh, so that's their argument. Okay. Got it. And then here's First Brands. The equipment finance specialist, little known outside confines, onset claims its marketing materials have leased everything from chickens to Black Hawk helicopters. Collapse of First Brands has rattled the market. Sophisticated private capital, such as Blackstone, have already taken losses on First Brands. Onsent calls itself dominating equipment leasing, has emerged from the wreckage as the largest creditor. Onsent said it is owed $1.9 billion from the sale. Wow. Wow, that sucks. I don't think they're gonna get the fallout could ripple through the Utah community. In Draper, wow. Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens. You give loans to funky, uncertain businesses, right? Shareholders of Core Scientific have voted down the $9 billion merger with CoreWeave. Shareholder vote lasted about 5 minutes, according to a person familiar with the matter. Likelihood of the transaction winning approval increasingly slim. Core Scientific announced it had formally terminated the merger agreement with the vote. Core Scientific leases out data center infrastructure. Oh, interesting. Core Scientific leases data center infrastructure to companies like CoreWeave. Interesting. Okay, so a supplier for CoreWeave didn't want to merge with CoreWeave. Why? Do they think CoreWeave is the bag holder? CoreWeave investors sell more than $1 billion in shares as IPO lockup ends. Core blimey. Dude, so many people are writing AI comments now. It's so sad. America and India or China have only holstered their weapons. The deal was mostly a holstering of weapons, with China agreeing to postpone restrictions on critical rare earths for a year, and will limit, you know, some of the other tariffs. Okay, we already know about that. Old news, old news. That was the trade secret theft guy. Okay, what else? David Solomon said, mounting U.S. debt risks a reckoning for the economy if growth doesn't improve. Well, yeah. Let me see that here. Goldman CEO says U.S. heading for debt reckoning. Yeah. All right. Well, that's not a surprise. All right. What else? Let's go. Bitcoin now 107.4. Seems like there's going to be some selling before the weekend, huh? All right. Let's see what we have here. Let's go see if CNN's got anything interesting. I doubt it, but let's see what the commies have for us. 5 arrests in the Louvre. Basically reset the clock to January. That's true. Nuclear weapons testing program. We talked about that. All right, next. Fox. What does Fox have? Let's see here. What's going on with Newsom?
Gavin Newsom raised eyebrows with his latest comments about the Biden presidency. Watch this.
I would argue, of our former president, who I think was one of the most successful presidents in the last century, and that is Joe Biden. And I will defend that till my grave. The fact that he had a worker-centered industrial policy, and the fact that those are the right policies for this country.
They're all getting undone, right? I mean, everything.
A lot of them.
Joining us now is the senior writer for the Washington
Post. Joe Biden himself, if he's not coherent, who believes in character, because said that he believes that anyone who is anti-woke is anti.
Mayor Pete's leading in some New Hampshire.
AOC to answer your question, Carly.
Boring. All right. Let's see here. What else? Let's see here. Disney's a-hole move, Disney versus YouTube TV war, could shake up streaming forever. Trump's $1 trillion investment. $2 million empty lots. Oh, this is the home builder claim. That's the Trump home builder claim. But I don't think there's substantiated evidence of that. We'll look.
Everybody is worried. Should I buy a house? Should I wait? What's going to happen?
All right, get to the point.
The guy that President Trump put in this position, and he's running the Fed into the ground. He has just completely destroyed the integrity of the Fed. I'll give you an example. I criminally referred Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve Governor, for mortgage fraud. There's credible mortgage fraud, I believe, that she's committed. In a normal environment, if he didn't have a any rate,
it's at the same time, 2024. The United States saw a drop of home ownership in the second quarter of 2016, nearly 10 years ago, from 74.36 to 74 rates. Since the 2008 financial crisis.
Yes, we know homeownership rates are down.
Blaming Powell because he is to blame and he deserves the blame. But also at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Patrick, we just allowed rent to be counted towards your mortgage. So if you have been paying your rent the last 10 years, that should count towards your mortgage. It's in the right location.
What's the point?
Come up buying a house. You and I will have the conversation and we'll talk about the price of lumber, price of
project for just 3 years. So, I mean, what do you
2010.
We can move liquidity too. So
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we want to be constructive, but at the same time, people have to step up and do the right thing by the American consumer. They can't be like the oil cartel where they collude with each other, keep the prices high, and then gentlemen like this.
So they're saying, why would I get into building smaller homes? There's no money in it. I mean, if you look at this 1970s, look how many homes we're building per year that are 14,000 square feet or less.
1,400, yeah. Okay. It's just not a functional size anymore today.
Housing market. And that's not just, I know it sounds like a crazy political point, but he did. With this inflation that went up and rates went up as fast as it did, it scared the hell out of everybody. They didn't build supply. They kept margins high. And we got our work cut out for us.
Tom, what are you thinking about this?
Well, I also see a local angle to it. Right, and local permitting and local approvals. We just saw it after the LA fires. Local municipalities, and I'd love to see the administration, kind of lead and drive, like council of governors or whatever is necessary to say, look, your states are making it hard to build homes. You have a lot of environmental regulations. You've got permitting that takes forever. Just look at the rebuild they're trying to do in Pacific Palisades. I know that's a wealthy neighborhood, but homes were there in an area that had, decades of just neighborhood existence. It's not new. No one's trying to do it new. And just to rebuild the homes, you've got insurance carriers holding checks, ready to start the rebuild, and there are sufficient resources to rebuild, yet the permitting process in Los Angeles is taking forever.
It's totally crazy.
And so I'd love to see the administration work with the governors and say, hey, get your state in order and let the building happen faster. So I think the builders, I don't want to pick on builders either, but they need to scream loud.
They need to be
their permitting and the regulatory process fast.
I also think that the House and the Senate, they're telling me mortgages, credit scores, credit bureaus, trying to bring down title insurance costs, all of these things. The number one thing, though, that has driven, in my view, in addition to Biden's reckless policies, this housing problem, has been mass immigration that he let in, illegal immigration, letting in 20 million people. What does that do to our housing supply?
Right. And it's sad when the director of housing uses the
Layoffs.
same 20 million stat when we don't even have verification of that 20 million stat. We know a lot of people came in through immigration, but the guy's basically a shill. I don't think we're going to get anything useful out of this. All right. So that's
Disney
going to be a boring interview. What's this Disney thing? What's their point over here?
Disney's OTT valuation, how many total members they got?
Hulu plus Disney plus subscribers.
Where do you think this is in 5 years? Who do you?
This is
I think if Disney replaces Bob Iger, they bring a new CEO, they change things up, and they go back to being away from woke, I think Disney's a value stock, my opinion. I think Disney over the next 5 to 10 years,
if they replace Iger, Iger's like the one thing bringing them back together, back to profitability. Whatever. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, so where do we sit in markets right now? We've got... Oh, Bitcoin just dropped under 107. Look at this. Bitcoin's right there on the line, right on the edge. Wow, Netflix is almost green on the day. Well, not really. I saw it at 37. I thought it had recovered more than this. 4% on Open Door. Everything's pretty much red. Q's 80 bips. It's not a surprise. Tesla's trying to recover. It's just slow. The market's adjusting to the rate pull. Somebody says Kevin doesn't have patience. You're right. I'm not a doctor. Okay. Raiders. Okay. How's the BBC doing? Toronto. Cruise operator family. Ouch. 17-year-old died playing cricket after being hit by the ball. Ouch. Literally. What Palantir sees? Tech company CTO on surveillance AI and the future of war. Palantir is building a more efficient surveillance state for the age of implicit authoritarianism. In its own eyes, it's essentially doing patriotic work. You hear the argument from my guest. Okay. Okay, this is just more of a Palantir interview. Helping companies manufacture things, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, we know. All right. The robot picking the apple. I'm serious, by the way. If you are a mechanical engineer or you have any insight into manufacturing on robots, I'm very curious to hear from you. Email me at kevin@meetkevin.com. Okay, so we talked about the tariffs. We talked about... Oh, let's look at institutions. Yeah, let's see what the institutionals have. So if I go into the suits, I want to see how the suits are reacting to the Fed. That could be interesting. Okay, UBS, lower rates and an NTQT. Let's see if they actually have any insight here. FOMC strike through, no. Okay, I mean, like, I don't need a recap of what the Fed said from these institutions. December's not a done deal, I know. I think labor would be very interesting if we can get an institution talking about labor. But otherwise, I'm about to go vomit. I'm bored. How rare earths became the next trade war weapon. I know. Goldman Sachs. Advanced auto parts. I'd be curious to see what they're seeing at advanced auto parts, honestly. Because, like, how's the consumer doing there? So advanced auto reported adjusted above estimates. Okay, so that's good. However, look at that. Sales decreased 5.2% year over year, but that was above estimates. Operating margin increased. Oh, that's good. Management upped their guidance, raised the midpoint of sales. Management now expects comp sales growth is still anemic here, 0.7 to 1.3. Net sales decreased. Management noted that do-it-yourself comped positively during the quarter. We expect a positive reaction to better than expected Q3 results. Valuation risks. Okay. Alright, that's fine. That's no fun. What else? Estee Lauder, Etsy, Fiserv. That would be interesting to see what their take is on Fiserv. Because that was a disaster. Like a mega disaster. Let's see what they say. Significantly underperformed on the back of major expectations reset. Reset an earnings algorithm. Flat revenue for the next 9 months until they get pricing reversals. We're downgrading to neutral. Oh, from buy, so they had a buy on them. RIP. Little unclear if Clover includes any underlying acceleration. Overall read-throughs are limited. Banking issues are largely isolated relative to aggressive pricing actions. Right, because everybody's taking it in the margin. Is this a buying opportunity? Unfortunately, not very hopeful. Yeah. I mean, this is like a United Health scenario. You know, UNH had that massive dip. And a lot of people, I mean, it went all the way down to 233 there for a moment. I remember after the first dip, it's like, I don't know. And it dipped all the way to 233. It has recovered since then, but this is the hope that people have who are buying the dip on it. There's the hope that, oh yeah, it'll be able to regain. But if you actually look closely, look how long it took. Because the first big dip right here was the 420. You're still way below that. And then you bled, dipped more. Bled, dipped more. So it literally took 4 months to bottom on United Health. Wow. Okay, Deutsche Bank, Citi. Dude, who's got something to talk about? Let me check the Meet Kevin community app. Maybe somebody's got something to talk about in here. Let's see here. Somebody's talking, okay, buying the dip. Somebody's talking about cybersecurity, Chipotle, Microsoft, repo market, Circle. Circle is interesting. I think they are doing a great job in tokenization. Investors remain wary. What is this? Oh, is this a reaction to the Fed? Risk averse. We've returned to a risk averse territory. After spiking on the back of concerns of credit markets, our risk index has fallen to the neutral territory. Investors remain wary. Oh, this is ahead of the Fed. Oh, so this is already old. Boring. Damn, bro. Somebody says, let's talk about feelings. I feel like the market is SH19. I mean, yeah. All right, so Bloomberg has nothing for us. The Wall Street Journal we've gone through has nothing for us. Financial Times we checked. Economist we checked. The Information we checked. I guess I can see if there's anything unique in here. Sometimes, you know, you miss a good story on the websites. And so I always think of these as like the early morning printout where they have really good buried insights. I always consider them buried insights. Mittal joint venture brought Russian oil transported on blacklisted ships. Okay. Fed cuts. Saw that. Sudan rebel militia fighters accused. Okay. Slovenia Panda bonds. Tycoons. Okay. Gates Foundation. Fine. U.S. and Korea trade agreement. Fine. Oops. Then we've got AI Frenzy sees NVIDIA win title of world's first $5 trillion business. Yep. We know. Thermo Fisher deal. German startup set for kamikaze drone deal. UBS to appeal ruling on Credit Suisse write-down. Oh, UBS is sad. Okay. Hedge funds are reaping profits from debt before it exists. The debt bubble's gonna be something else. The race to launch a pill for weight loss. Oh yeah, people don't want the shot. Advent of AI puts premium on human-created content. Wikipedia's quiet resilience in the era of generative artificial intelligence captures how a profound shift in what we perceive as value. AI systems scrape and repurpose vast amounts of human knowledge, with the line between original and derivative work blurring. That makes authentic human-created content more valuable than ever. Right, that's actually why, like, the Meet Kevin app just hit, like, record user numbers. And when I write things in the Meet Kevin app or in, like, our Daily Wealth post, which is all free in the Meet Kevin app, which you can get on Apple or Android, that's me, you know? It's not, there's no AI in it. Which is somewhat, you know, like, the point. So, big fan of that. And I agree with that. Oh, let me see if there are any good interviews. Alright, so videos. Let's see here. OpenAI lawsuit, nobody cares. Credit pickers market, whatever. What ails the economy can't be cured by lower rates. Okay, that should be interesting.
All right, let's talk about the impact of trade, the Fed, and tech earnings on the market. Joining us now, Ed.
Hawkish cut in the federal funds rate because the Fed chair decided to hold back on feeding the animal spirits that are in the stock market right now. The overall economy, from the data we have available, still looks okay. There's, S&P Global puts together a flash purchasing managers index for manufacturing and for services, and they were actually pretty strong. Weekly retail sales numbers look like they're doing quite well. And of course, the earnings numbers are the ultimate story here. They've been really surprisingly good this year. First quarter, second quarter, and now third quarter looks like it's coming in stronger than expected. Double-digit growth rates on a year-over-year basis. So I think that's all very good for the market.
Yeah, certainly the big picture continues to move in line with probably what the bulls would like to see. Although I wonder just about some of the details, right? So the last few days,
talk about labor.
A lot more attention on how the rally.
Yeah, because Powell did say that, oh yeah, we're lowering rates so we can help people hire. I don't know that that's going to translate that quickly. That's the scary thing.
Narrow it out again. Semiconductors and some related stocks really doing most of the work. Breadth measures not that great. And then I guess the idea that maybe people had started to chase a little bit, anticipating a strong finish to the year. So I guess tactically, where do you put that?
Well, I think, when you look at the S&P 500 over the past 10 years and average the year-to-date percent change, what you find is that year-to-date, on average, we've been up 8%. And then in November, December, S&P 500. But as you said, there's a potential here for, I think one of your favorite words is a pullback when things go down. That leaves lots of options of how much we can go to the downside. But I think we could have a pretty moderate pullback. My concern is sentiment is too bullish. Everybody seems to be bullish right now. So we need to take some of that froth, at least on a short-term basis.
Is that all he has for us? All right, this is boring. This ain't going anywhere.
Something very strict.
All right, what is this? This gap is about to break the economy.
range is happening. These two lines have been diverging.
All right, what do you have? So we have real sales and the unemployment rate.
More goods and services than ever, right? At the same time as they've been laying workers off. And it's not just...
Yeah, but part of that is because of CapEx.
The volume of sales that's hitting record highs. It's also the stock market that has been thriving alongside rising unemployment.
Yes.
Corporation really stagnated over the last couple of decades. Employees in the industrial sector in the U.S. Since 1980, we've industrialized the technological displacement, political platform from place.
Cool icons, bro. What's the point?
2 years for both businesses and consumers, suggesting there is a clear intention today from both people and businesses to try and adopt this model that not 100% is a thing that tried to fit with quite
none of this is a surprise
that we saw earlier. For the most part, small businesses in the U.S. have been stagnating since 2021 and have seen their...
I mean, the Russell's been doing really well since Liberation.
And the labor and represents 50% of the U.S. corporate jobs have all seen to margins of Amazon, Twitter, AI, seeing eventually deliver in the short term.
Is this just an excuse to make fancy graphics?
End up causing pain when the bubble unwinds. Tech stocks are very likely running far above the reality of what a bubble times winds. Technological automation is a food in the financial bureau, ACMR.
Right. Well, I mean, like, ultimately the stock market is driven by earnings, right? But I mean, those are cool graphics, but I don't think any of that is a surprise. We've been granularly looking at the labor market. That's a very broad overview of the labor market. Congratulations. All right, let's go. Let's try Bloomberg. I remember the days Apple showed the market direction. Oh yeah, no, Apple doesn't lead anymore now. Back to Starbucks plan and working? Yeah, I don't know about that. Chill your own strategy there. Although the Chipotle CEO seems to have left at a great time there. Amazing meeting with China. Dude, I'm out. I don't think there's anything left here. I'm trying to find something to talk about, but my interest is quite low. What is this? The Hindenburg omen was triggered yesterday? Oh, great. Okay, just as I was about to give up, a bear piece stumbles upon the feed on X. It's almost like the X algorithm knows that Kevin is getting bored and we need something juicy. I mean, we are so bored right now with the 3,322 of us on YouTube just chilling out at 10:43 while the market's red, just looking for things to do, that people in the chat are starting to ask me about my real estate startup. We must be really bored if we're going to start talking about real estate. And look, I'd love nothing more than to shill my own startup, but I know we're bored when those are the questions that are coming in. So here we go. What do we have? Weak breath. Not talking about meat breath. We can do that later after some Wingstop. But a Hindenburg omen was triggered yesterday. The past 30 times this happened, the S&P fell 83% of the time 2 months later. All right, so here's the chart, but if you look at 1 year later, it's mostly green. So I don't know how useful this is, but here's the criteria that they gave for the Hindenburg omen. The S&P 500 is above its 50-day moving average. Bro, we are so far above our moving averages right now on the SPY. Like if we throw in the SPY right now, first of all, look at where we sit right here. We have the 100-day moving average in green. The 200-day moving average is way down here. You can see the last time we fell under the 200-day moving average was Liberation. That was glorious. You know what we really ought to do is throw in like a relative strength indicator here, like turn on RSI and just see where we sit right now. Yeah, our RSI on the day chart on the SPY right now is, what are we at? We're at 63 right now on our relative strength. Liberation brought us down into the oversold area of 18 to 19, but we're so rich right now, so it's no doubt we are over the 50-day moving average. I mean, that's an easy one to achieve. More than 2.8% of the New York Stock Exchange issues are at 52-week lows and 52-week highs. and then an oscillator. All right, fine. So you've got some technical omen news here. Now, when's the last time we've seen some triggers of this? We had September 11th, 2024. That was right after the Japanese carry trade crisis, and that was a really bad omen because it was straight up. Like, it didn't work. It failed. So the very last time this triggered, it was a failure. Okay, the second to last time it triggered was July 9th. That was when we started the unemployment uncertainties before the Japanese carry trade issue, because 1 month later, the S&P 500 was down 6%, but obviously 1 year later, you're up 12% there. So then the time before that, you've got April 8th of 2022. It was red every single scenario up to a year later. That's true. 2022 was a tough time, but we were also going into an interest rate hiking cycle. Before that, you kind of have mixed results. I would say most of the time after a year, the S&P 500 is up. But then again, that's almost always true. So I don't know that this... I think when people hear Hindenburg, they just think implosion and collapse. But I don't know that this one thing is so dramatic. Hindenburg omen. And then you also think of like the short sellers Hindenburg research. For the third time in the past 5 years, another Hindenburg omen. I mean, if you invested any time during the last 5 years, you were like up unless you bought a trash stock like Beyond Meat, right? Like you're fine. So, I mean, look at this. Look at the irony of these charts is the Hindenburg omen. It's like you're literally showing us, oh my gosh, look at the panic on green triangles here, and we're literally like straight up on the chart. Like, who cares about this Hinden scam omen? This is not the problem. The problem is the labor market. Otherwise broadly, who cares? This is nonsense. This is what happens if you doom scroll on X too long. It just ends up being a bunch of garbage. That's my take on the Hinden scam omen. All right. That's all I got. I'm done. I give